It's the start of a brand new season for the Blancpain Endurance Series. We're at Monza. We're 15 kilometres northeast of Milan. And what better way to start the championship than with a full grid of 56 cars, a historic circuit, and lovely Italian hot, sunny spring weather. Well, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I'm afraid to say, though, it is a very wet Monza. It's been raining heavily all day. The teams are on the grid. It's going to be a safety car start. Such are the track conditions. But it's going to be a fascinating race, that's for sure. 56 cars on track. Last year we had 290 different drivers in the Blancpain Endurance Series. There's a whole host of newcomers for this opening round of the 2012 series, with 5 3-hour races and 1 24-hour race. It's going to be a race and indeed a season to look forward to. David Addison and Hayley Coxon trackside at Monza, looking forward to the race getting underway in just under a quarter of an hour's time. And down on the grid we have an enormous grid, as I say, with a whole host of newcomers, new teams, new cars. For this weekend, we have got 9 different brands represented on the grid. We'll come to them in a little while, but there is very much one of the stars of the weekend, because Valentino Rossi is here. He's about to have only his 2nd ever car race. And briefly yesterday, in the second part of qualifying, he topped the times. You can imagine what response that got from a partisan crowd. Naturally, he drives a Ferrari. And there he is down on the grid. There's an awful lot of attention surrounding Valentino Rossi, understandably. He's been mobbed by fans all weekend. It's going to be fascinating to see how he gets on in GT racing. The one race he's done before in a car was the 6 Hours of Vallelunga back in 2009. So he's a little bit car rusty. Started off in karting, bear in mind, before he went into his ultra-successful motorbike racing career. And not surprisingly, as you can see from the umbrellas, there's lots of support for Il Dottore here at Monza. So there you're looking down on the grid at the Ferrari number 46. It runs in the Pro-Am Cup, and it's Valentino Rossi sharing with Alessio Sallucci, his lifelong friend since they were 4-year-olds at school, and of course the man who looks after him in terms of management and general race weekend assistance. Alessio has done quite a bit of racing himself, but now they team up together in the Blancpain Endurance Series. So that's a Ferrari mid-grid. Ferrari on pole position as well, bear in mind, because in Q3 yesterday, it was the Ferrari Academy driver, Daniel Zampieri, that went to the top of the times. And as the rain continues to fall, it's his co-driver, Stefano Gattuso, behind the wheel, ready to take the start. And he will go against Mike Sturzberg's Porsche off the front of the grid. The Porsche qualified yesterday by Richard Westbrook. Most teams elect to go for 3 drivers. Others go for just 2. The regulations say that you must make 2 pit stops. Ideally, therefore, you want to try and come in on the hour mark, because that will help you to get to the end on fuel. Well, that's how Porsche here won last year, by being metronomically good. 60 minutes and a pit stop, 60 minutes and a pit stop, 60 minutes checkered flag to win. Well, in these conditions, fuel less of an issue. Safety cars, I think, are going to be something we'll see a little bit more of than we did here a year ago. Last year's Monza opener got through without a single safety car period. Qualifying yesterday, peppered with yellow flags and indeed stoppages. So it's a very crowded circuit, and as Richard Westbrook said in the press conference, driving standards on the whole pretty good. It's just a very crowded circuit indeed. Looking down onto the grid at the Sofrev team, Patrice Guelar's Ferrari, and Patrice, another experienced GT racer. One to watch, I think, over the course of the next 3 hours of the race. Lamborghini, Ferrari, Audi, Dodge, Nissan, Porsche, BMW, Mercedes and McLaren all represented on the track. There you can see the number 13 Mercedes, the car that is going to be started by Carl Wendlinger, one of the many newcomers to the Blancpain Endurance Series. He shares with Anthony Kumpen and with Koen Wouters. Carl Wendlinger, of course, former Formula 1 racer, but somebody who's had great success in sports car racing, most recently with the Jet Alliance Aston Martin. Prior to that, he drove for Maserati, and of course go back to the 1990s, and very successful in Orica Chrysler Vipers with Olivier Beretta. So Carl Wendlinger, another man to watch in this stellar entry. Christopher Mies will start in car number 1 that he shares with Christopher Hasse and Stefan Ortelli, double winner a week ago at Nogaro in the GT1 World Championship. And it was the Belgian Audi Club Team WRT that took Greg Franchi to last year's title. Well, Greg Franchi has changed sides, as it were, for this year, because rather than staying with Audi, he moves to BMW. He's still going to be a man to watch, I think it's fair to say. And the Belgian Audi Club with a 2-car attack. Lots of new drivers coming into the team this year. Really, it's only Stefan Ortelli who is retained in the team. There's still going to be cars to watch at the end of 3 hours. So everybody starting, of course, on wet tyres. Nobody making a gamble, partly because it would be folly because everyone else around you is on wets, but also because there's barely a break in the cloud. It's a touch brighter, I think it's fair to say, than it was a little while ago, but still very, very unlikely that we're going to get any dry running in this race. And in fact, they've had precious little wet running all weekend, so another unknown for the teams. The final part of qualifying yesterday had 1 or 2 spots of rain, but nothing really serious. So with Friday having been dry, they go to the race now with virtually no wet running at all. And in a number of cases, the gentleman racer, the less experienced racer, doing the first stint. So I think it's going to be a very jumbled order. The man behind the championship, Stéphane Rattel, he's on the grid with Hayley Coxon.
Stéphane, what a successful grid we have here this weekend. What a great start to the season.
Yeah, it's a wet start, but it's a good start. And the rain can only add to the excitement of the race, and I think we're on for a big show. I hope they all stay on the track, and we'll see with the winner at the end of the first 3-hour race, but it should be a challenge because I think we have many contenders.
And how about having Valentino Rossi here for his first competitive GT outing?
It's fantastic to have him here. He's really a great hero, and here on home soil, I'm sure he's going to do well. I mean, he was really quick, 10th time overall in qualifying, and he has an amazing talent, and I'm sure he's going to show it on 4 wheels that he does on 2 wheels.
Thank you, Stéphane.
And that's Rattel, the racer, as well, because Stéphane was in the Revival GT race yesterday here at Monza with his Venturi, a car that he's had from you and used to race in the One Make Championship many, many years ago. Yeah, Valentino Rossi inevitably is going to be talked about a great deal in this. It will be intriguing to see just how well he goes, but ahead of him there are some very good drivers indeed. Everywhere you look in the entry you find names that are worth watching, such as in the number 64 Ferrari, Mirko Venturi, pole position holder here last year. Andrea Invernizzi and Tommaso Maino will be his co-drivers, and for the opening stint in that car it will be Mirko Venturi, former Formula 3 champion, and certainly a man who's going to be well worth watching. He could well be the race leader at the end of lap 1. I suspect that Mike Stursberg will keep out of trouble in the Haribo Porsche and drop back a little bit, but again, this is all part of the fascination of this. You've got drivers of differing speeds, you've got cars that in some cases aren't that well suited to Monza. Take the BMWs as an example, because they've been really lacking for top-end speed all weekend. Car number 83 there, Olivier Pla, very successful single-seater racer, turned sports car peddler in recent years, and he drives for the SMG Challenge Philippe Gache team. And the car lining up on the outside of the second row of the grid. That, again, could well be a contender. We saw here last year how well the Porsches go on fuel. As I say, fuel, less of an issue in the rain, but they're also bulletproof cars, Porsches, by and large. They're durable, they're quick, and that has a very good driver combination of Olivier Pla, Eric Clement, and Philippe Gache, the man behind the team. All the drivers being reminded that they must have the lights on. Once the cars are released, the race will start behind the safety car. So rather than it being a conventional rolling start, the safety car will take an extra lap and give the drivers an opportunity to work out where all the puddles are. There's the car that Richard Westbrook qualified, and Mike Stursberg will start. Mike, who has had quite a bit of success in the past in the VLN, the long-distance championship based around the Nordschleife in Germany. And he, Hans-Guido Riegel and Richard Westbrook were all part of the same driving combination last year in the Spa 24 Hours. And that is the car on pole position. Stefano Guttuso then will start. It was a very good lap by Daniel Zampieri to put it to the top of the times. The third driver, Davide Rigon, somebody with great success of years past in Super League Formula. And I think this again could well be not just a pouncing horse, but a dark horse for a win, assuming that they can keep out of trouble. You've got 3 young gun drivers in that car with perhaps not that much GT experience, long distance experience. If they can keep out of trouble, then I think the car, which is run by Kessel Racing, one of the top Ferrari teams, again could be a potential winner. There's such a long list of potential winners. Another one to look for, I think, is going to be on the third row of the grid, number 75, the Pro Speed Porsche. Mark Goossens will start. He is joined by Mark Henrici and Xavier Marcin in that car. I think that could be one to watch. Well, there is Valentino Rossi's very distinctive Ferrari, ready to take the start. The grid now being cleared, and 56 cars we have in the entry this weekend. There's a question mark over one Ferrari because the number 42 Ferrari, which is run by Sport Garage, was crashed yesterday. Emmett O'Brien went off the road. The team asked if they could use a spare car. The steward said, no, you can't. And therefore, they've had to work very, very hard to try to get the car on the grid. Mike Stursberg slow away on the lap behind the safety car. The race now underway. The clock has started. So with the race starting behind the safety car, we are in business. Therefore, this is part of the 3 hours of racing. And you can see the ultimate supercar traffic jam there. Everybody queued up, ready to go. And I think the first proper racing lap, when they get down towards the first chicane, it's going to be an amazing traffic jam. some concern that people may even have to stop and try and funnel their way through. There are so many cars. So there, with the headlights on, you can see just how bad the conditions are, and keeping out of trouble, I think, is going to be key to the first few laps of the race. And if you can survive, then you should well be able to get through to a decent position by the end of the first hour, when we expect the first round of pit stops. In the dry, you're looking at around about 32 to 34 laps. I think it's fair to say that they're going to be able to squeeze a fair few more out in these conditions with a better fuel consumption. Let's take a look at the grid, though. We've seen the cars. Let's just quickly run through who's doing what. Stefano Gattuso versus Mike Stursberg off the front of the grid. Then you've got the Venturi Ferrari lining up with Olivier Pla in Porsche number 83 alongside. Mark Gussent in 75 is fifth on the grid. Giacomo Petrobelli in number 57 Porsche is next. Then in number 1, Christopher Mies, and he lines up alongside Carl Wendlinger. Then Patrice Guélard in number 20, and Valentino Rossi 10th on the grid. How about that, for his first outing in the Blancpain Endurance Series. In car number 10, it is going to be Gabriel Balthazar who goes first. Looking a little bit further down the grid, the best of the McLarens, Jack Clark, Edouard Mondron in car number 5, the car that they share for the purposes of this weekend with Nico Verdonk, who's been a race winner in the Blancpain Endurance Series in the past. The rest of the McLarens really struggling. The teams have had dramas in the winter with reliability, so they've not been able to do vast amounts of testing because they keep having to iron out little problems. And around here, the main concerns have been a lack of speed, a lack of brakes, and really a lack of pre-event testing to really get themselves dialed in. Jean-Claude Lanier will be in car number 11, stuntman par excellence. Not in the first flush of youth anymore, Jean-Claude, but a hugely experienced driver whose career dates back to the 1960s. It's good to have him in the championship this year. Duncan Taffy joining Gregoire de Moustier in another of the McLarens. Duncan switching from single-seater racing into GT racing and hoping this will be a whole new career for him. And Michael Wainwright in number 9, one of the 2 Gulf Racing McLarens, and still they come. The McLaren of Jordan Groger, run by Dave Ryan's Von Ryan Racing team, and you can see how far down the grid you get to some of the Audis from the Belgian Audi Club. Number 2, a long, long way down on the grid after dramas yesterday, and that's the car that's going to be started by Marco Bononomi, very much now part of the Audi family. See the Vita 4-1 livery adorning the number 66 BMW, which is Greg Franchi, the reigning champion, Frank Kechler, and Jelmer Berman, having raced for the team in the GT1 World Championship, doing so now also in the Blancpain Endurance Series. And as the cars head towards the Parabolica, still you can see how many cars there are on the grid, including the Dodge Viper, which is in the Gentleman Trophy for Gilles Vannelet, Luc Paillard and Gaël de Soudier, former GT3 race winner in Morgans. And just to remind you about classes, no GT4 this year. There just physically is not space in the grid to have GT4 cars. You've got the Pro Cup, the Pro-Am, and then the Gentleman Trophy for less experienced, true gentleman racers. And fierce battles you're going to have across all the classes. So, over the start and finish line go the cars. And that therefore puts 1 lap in the book down towards the first chicane. And when the race director, Eduardo Freitas, is happy that the drivers have had enough of an opportunity to have a look at where the standing water is, where the puddles are, got a little bit of temperature into the tyres, then the safety car will be called in and we'll go into, you might term, a natural race. But for now, everybody having to maintain station. Yellow flag still shown by the marshals as we're under the safety car like this for at least the time being. 1 more lap, maybe more. Other people that were in the wars a little bit yesterday included Bert Langin, who this year switches from the Belgian Audi Club team, WRT, to the Mark VDS Racing team to drive one of the rapid BMW Z4s, the type of car that Mark VDS Racing won the last 2 rounds of the championship with last year, Manicourt and Silverstone. Well, Bert Langin crashed fairly heavily, did a lot of damage to the front of the car. He was okay, but that car, as a consequence, starts a long, long way back on the grid, on the 26th row. Also, we have drivers for transgressions in the pre-qualifying session on Friday who have to make a drive-through penalty within the first 3 laps of the race. Jeffrey Van Hooydonk is one of them. He was a transgressor. Stéphane Lemeray will be the man, because he starts the car, who must serve the drive-through within the first 3 laps, the DB Motorsport BMW. Number 7, the Porsche, Miroslav Konopka, Stefano Crotti and Deno Mikolashko. Now, that car was involved in an accident in pre-qualifying at the second chicane, and for driving in a manner not compatible with general safety, Stefano Crotti caught not just a drive-through, but in fact a 10-second stop-go penalty. And the other car, which copped a drive-through for not responding to a red flag when the session was stopped, is the Sport Garage number 42 Ferrari. I've already talked about it because it was damaged yesterday. Well, on Friday it was transgressing the regulations, and so Kevin Despinas, the very quick French Renault Clio racer, is going to have to be an early drive-through penalty taker as well. In a sense, it's less of an issue when the cars are all bunched together like this, because hopefully you can still work your way through traffic. The flip side of the coin is if you could have been able to have the race underway, there might be a little bit of fresh air for you to dive back into once you serve those penalties. But anyway, as the teams will tell you, it is what it is. They've got to try and make the best of it now. And in 3 hours of racing, there's always the chance that if you do end up in grief early on with these penalties, you've got plenty of time to fight back. So drivers trying to encourage a bit of warmth into the tyres. Everybody this year on Michelin rubber. Last year it was a free choice of tyre. For this year, Michelin is the chosen supplier. So in terms of the base compound tyre, the base tyre itself, the manufacturer, it's the same for everybody. Although Michelin then have to respond to the different requirements of the 9 different brands represented on the grid. They've got experience of many of them from last year. So the bedraggled photographers ready for pictures at the first chicane when the race gets underway. Pace starting to quicken just a little bit, and as I say, when the race director is happy, call the safety car in and we'll be in business. We feel being headed then by Stefano Guttuso, Mike Stursberg, Mirko Venturi, Olivier Pla, Mark Goossens, and then Giacomo Petrobelli will be the top 6 drivers. And now, looking at the way that they're all bunching up once again, I suspect that the safety car is going to be in this time, and we can hopefully get the race underway. Let's see whether that's the case. The lights are still flashing, unless it's going to be a late call as they come to the Parabolica. You can see the way they're all bunching up. So is this going to be the proper start of the race? We've had effectively 2 laps behind the safety car. Let's see what the race director elects to do then as the cars turn their way through the Parabolica. Everybody lagging back, hoping that if it does peel in, they can sprint away. And is that yellow flag going to be replaced by a green one? Does not look like it. Frustration for the drivers this, particularly if it's one of the quicker drivers going first to try and put the car up the order and build a gap over the opposition, because they are having less time therefore in which to do it. The safety car has indeed stayed out, so there was no late call. It was at least 1 more lap required. So everybody hold station and files their way down towards the Variante del Rettifilo, the first of the chicanes. And it's one that in the support races for Formula 3 and for the Lamborghinis over the weekend, it's been catching people out, and I think it will continue to do so. As you can see in the murk, the headlights just about being able to peer through the dreadful conditions here. But it's going to be a real challenge for the drivers when they get underway. The amount of spray, and of course something else that they're going to have to contend with is the possibility of the car steaming up inside. And so it's not just the spray, it's not just the rain, there's also the problem of the condensation in the cockpit that they might have to try and conquer as well. The colourful 73 Ferrari, Pablo Palladino at the wheel of it. That was a car that was in the gravel on Friday after drama. And Monza absolutely full of supercars. It is an amazing entry. And straight away, coming into the pit lane there, you can see which is the 47 McLaren, Lorenzo de Vega at the wheel of it. Portuguese driver switching from Lamborghini to McLaren for this year. Now, I just wonder whether they've elected to just splash a bit more fuel into that car. Do it now, while you're not going to lose that much time against the opposition. So you can still rejoin at the tail end of the field. Yes, you'll have lost places, but he'll still be on the tail of that queue of cars. The Jones brothers Mercedes there. David Jones put out in Q1 and had his times taken away yesterday for taking the checker flag twice. So they had to rely on Godfrey Jones' times. But the Jones brothers, who went so well at Spa in the 24-hour race last year in the Pro-Am class, racing on their own, the plan for a 3rd driver, Mike Jordan, to be with them, came to nothing, because Mike, with a different hat on, isn't just a driver, he's a team manager as well, runs a 2-car touring car team for his son Andrew and for Jeff Smith, and is on duty at Donington today looking after the 2 cars there, so not able to race at Monza. So the Jones brothers pair up as they do in British GT, and just the 2 of them to drive 36 BMW. Another of the cars to watch, Stéphane Lemeret at the wheel for this opening stint. This is the one that Jeffrey Van Hooydonk has copped this drive-through penalty for after his actions on Friday, and Jeroen Den Boer, the other driver of the car, another man to watch. So we're on to the 3rd lap of the race as the cars make their way now onto the Rettifilo Centrale, down to the Parabolica. And are we going to get the lights extinguished shortly this time? Question mark, to get the race underway. There you can see the McLaren rejoining. The cars look sensational, but they have, all the teams, really been struggling in the last few days with these cars, and as I said earlier on, they haven't had a vast amount of opportunity to test and do a long run because the reliability issues are still being ironed out. Marshall sheltering under the safety car boards. Not quite the aim of them, but by the look of it, we may end up with 1 more lap at least behind the safety car. So Ferrari, Porsche at the front of the grid. Two stalwart names of sports car racing. You can see how far around Monza the field stretches. It's about half a lap when you've got the cars all in a queue like this. And the safety car crosses the line, heads down towards the first chicane. The United Autosports McLaren there. David Brabham doing the first stint. The car that he shares with Matt Bell and Alvaro Parent. Alvaro brought in as one of the factory McLaren test drivers. David Brabham, of course, is a former Formula 1 racer and Le Mans winner, vastly experienced and hugely successful too in sports car racing. I think that's going to be another team to watch over the course of the season. Maybe not for honours this weekend, but as the year goes on, certainly one to look for. Valentino Rossi splashing his way down through the first chicane, and of course running in 10th place. They have to hold grid order for the moment behind the safety car like this. Valentino's first target when the race gets underway will be the similar Ferrari in the hands of Patrice Gouillard, one of the Sofrev cars. Like last year, Sofrev, Jérôme Policon's team, a two-car attack. And Patrice Gouillard is an experienced and pretty quick French GT racer, so him versus Valentino Rossi will be something to savour. So as the cars work their way out of the second chicane, the Variante della Roggia, up towards the two-part of the Lesmo corners. Stefano Gattuso it is leading the way in the pole-sitting Ferrari. Stefano, who was successful in Italian Formula 3, went on to win the Italian Formula 3000 Championship, so he knows his way around Monza certainly. He's raced not just in the FIA GT Championship, but in the GT3 European Championship as well, and in the International GT Open Series. So he's got lots of experience of not just Italian circuits, but Italian technology, and, importantly, GT racing as well. So the combination of him, Daniel Zampieri, former Italian Formula 3 champion, and Davide Rigon, is going to be a very, very promising one indeed. And the car run by Kessel Racing on pole position, leading the pack as we are with the race live at the moment, but behind the safety car. Mike Sturzberg queuing up behind him in the Porsche. That's Guido Riegel, with whom he drives in the VLN, and Richard Westbrook, the third driver. Richard, the man that did the qualifying time, not surprisingly, and a winner a week ago at Alton Park in British GT. Another weekend, another championship for Richard. Remains very much in demand, not just as a Porsche driver these days. Of course, we saw him for Nissan in the GT1 World Championship. He was in V8 Supercars for the Gold Coast races in Australia last year, and now successfully in Grand Am as well, where he's been winning races. So Richard, who I think initially was considered a Porsche specialist, yes, he is very good in Porsches, but has proved in recent weeks, recent years, that he's very good in any type of car, should you need reminding, because of course in single-seater racing he was very, very good in Formula Opel Lotus many years ago, then into Formula 3 before the money ran out. And this really Richard's second career, came back in Porsche racing, made his name by winning the Carrera Cup GB, the Porsche Super Cup, then the GT2 class of the FIA GT Championship. And when he gets into that car, the Haribo-backed Porsche, it's going to fly, no argument about that. So the cars making their way across the line. Still the safety car heads the field, so therefore still we are denied the chance to see the cars race for real, even though this does count within the 3 hours of the opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series. From Monza, the championship moves to Silverstone, then to Paul Ricard, then to the Spa 24 hours, then to the Nürburgring, and it finishes in northern Spain in Navarra. They're all 3-hour races, with the exception, of course, of Spa, the traditional 24-hour race, which is rumoured to be having something like an 80 car entry. And that creates all sorts of dramas, with Michelin, for example, having to supply enough tyres for all the teams. So far, they've asked for paddock space for 25 trucks to bring all the tyres. So, in a sense, the championship is growing so fast that it's almost getting out of control, because people are having to respond so quickly. The timekeepers have had all sorts of issues this weekend trying to find enough pages to display all the information for the teams, because there are so many cars. It's a great credit to SRO that, with some diligent work over the winter, despite the state of the economy, more and more drivers are coming into the championship, more and more teams, and of course more and more new cars being built and sold as well. And the whole ethos of this is to give drivers track time. So they have a free practice and a pre-qualifying session on Friday, They then have qualifying on Saturday, a 3-hour race on Sunday, and the gentleman racer is back at his desk on Monday morning to pay for his weekend's fun. And it's a concept that has worked very, very well indeed. It's part for this year of the Blancpain race weekends. So in addition to the Blancpain Endurance Series itself, you've got the new Revival Series for the 1990s GT cars and the Lamborghini Super Trofeo as well. And you've got drivers not just taking part in this, but in at least one of the other support races as well. If you like supercars, it is the ideal weekend because you've got this enormous field of GT cars plus the electrical machinery in the support races as well. That's the Mark Goossens Porsche I was talking about, run by the Belgian Pro Speed team, and I think Mark is going to be a man to watch. Remember, he led the Spa 24 Hours but briefly last year until he was assaulted by his teammate with a kamikaze move at the bus stop chicane. But Mark Goossens, along with Xavier Marsan and Marc Henrici, who was a winner here in the World Touring Car races in the independence class back in 2005, Marc Henrici, I think is going to be a man to watch. Lorenzo Vero de Vega back into the pits, going to rejoin again at the rear of the field. Then have to try and catch up the queue. Now, is this to do with topping up fuel, or is it something more sinister? Is there a bigger problem in the McLaren? So the safety car once more heads down towards the Parabolica. Everybody weaving around, trying to put a bit of temperature into the rubber here, and you can see the way that the most vigorous weaver in the front of the pack, at least, is Mirko Venturi for the Black Bull Swiss Racing team. Lamborghini powered here last year, Ferrari powered this year, eager to get on with this. And I think it's fair to say that when the race does get underway, Mike Stursberg will go backwards. He just hasn't really got the speed and experience of some of the drivers around him. But as long as he can keep out of trouble, and he and Hans-Guido Riegel can hand the car over in a decent place to Richard Westbrook, then they've still got a chance come the last hour of the race. So, safety car comes out of the Parabolica. In or stays out, I'm afraid. So, another lap completed. That kind of begs the go, and we've got a car off. It's one of the Von Ryan McLarens by the look of it. That I have a horrible feeling might be the Jordan Grogard car that he shares with Rob Bath and Leon Price, and by the look of it, there is a rear wing lying on the ground. You can see the orange strip there that used to be attached to the back of the car. And so even under the safety car, drivers getting caught out by the conditions. I was about to pose the question for how much longer will the safety car stay out and for why, because the rain is not really relenting. It's kind of set in now, so what is the race director waiting for in order to bring the safety car in? Well, he's going to have to stay out now because of this car that is battered by the side of the road. It is indeed 88, so Jordan Grogard, who has done quite a bit of radical racing in Dubai, works for Leon Price, and it is the car you can see with its rear wing ripped off that now needs moving out of harm's way. So even if the race director had any thoughts about getting the race underway imminently, they are scotched by the need now to get this parked car out of harm's way. And that is at turn 9, so by the look of it, coming out of the third chicane. Part of the circuit last year that claimed a few victims, owing its rear suspension damage as well, by the look of it. Got a feeling, although this car may drive back to the pits, it will not be seen again. You can see the way it's crabbing, so it's not just a broken rear wing, there's some suspension damage as well, and that is not at all encouraging. I know it's wet conditions, but to have a moment like that, so damaging as well, when you're behind the safety car, it's not great news at all. So it begs the question as to exactly what Jordan Grogard was up to, whether it was somebody else's fault and he got caught out by it, or was a bit carried away with his right foot. Reports we're getting is that he spun on his own, so maybe trying to get some warmth into the tyres and just tried it too hard and lost it. But that, I think, is going to earn him a bit of a finger wagging, not just from the team, but from the race director as well. So we're almost at the end of the first 20 minutes. And we are currently on lap 6. The field continues behind the safety car here at Monza, this opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series. But we are not yet into what you might call a natural race, because we're still behind the safety car with the conditions probably about as bad now as they have been all day. We've had two very, very wet Formula 3 races, which were hampered by the weather conditions. And now the GT drivers, you can see how bad it is, behind the safety car drivers being caught out. So Jordan Grogard brings what's left of the new McLaren towards the pit lane, and with broken suspension it's a real handful to limp it around the Parabolica. This car has got one of the most dramatic liveries of the lot, Dragon Inc., one of Leon Price's businesses, represented on the side of the car, but it no longer looks quite as stunning as once it did. Well, the regulations say you must make 2 mandatory pit stops. So the first one expected to be round about the hour mark. Break the race up into thirds like that. But certainly now drivers I don't think are going to have any fuel worries whatsoever. And just looking out of the window, am I being overly optimistic if I say that it looks as though the rain may be relenting a little? So there's the safety car, light still flashing. When the lights go out, that's the sign to the drivers that the race is going to be in business at the end of that lap, and all the drivers being reminded that they must stay in their original grid positions. Well, of course, that's now shuffled a bit with the Lorenzo de Vega McLaren number 47 having pitted, and now with Jordan Grogor coming into the pit lane as well. So another lap, I'm afraid, completed by the safety car. Onto another one, therefore it goes. So that's given us now 6 laps in total behind the safety car. There, the rear of the field coming out of the Variante Ascari. Gives you an idea of just how far around the lap the field stretches. Valentino Rossi not really being able to demonstrate how good he might be in a Ferrari here, because he's done precious little racing so far. You can see as he braked for the chicane just how much water is being chucked from the wet tyres on which he runs. And the circuit, very, very treacherous indeed. The rain has barely let up, I think, from early morning. So the circuit conditions now as bad as they have been all weekend. The drivers with limited wet running. And maybe that's what the race director has in his mind, just an opportunity to give them a reasonable amount of time, albeit at a reduced speed, so they can get used to the conditions. There's the Mark Goossens Pro Speed Porsche. Mark, vastly experienced driver, having begun in karting before he went into Formula Ford. Not everybody is engrossed in sports car racing at Monza, it must be said. They don't know what they're missing. Mark Goossens, there you can see behind Olivier Plat as he turns his way through the Lesmo corners. Former British Formula Ford champion, raced in British Formula 3 and Formula 3000. Multiple winner of the Zolder 24 Hours. And it's good to see Mark with permanent drive for this season. Kind of fell out of fashion for a few years, but he has remained very quick and a very dependable driver, and did lead the Spa 24 Hours last year in the first few laps until was clobbered by his teammate. So the wildlife looks for shelter. The drivers look for a green flag. They find still all the way around the circuit. The yellows were still behind the safety car, and there's no indication yet on the timing screens for the teams either that the safety car is going to peel in at the end of this lap. So as the field turns its way through the chicane, the Ascari chicane, then Stefano Gattuso continues to lead the way without really having a great deal to do here. Just follow the safety car, find out where the puddles are, keep out of trouble. Car 37 being warned. This is Simon Knapp's BMW Z4, about giving its place back to number 7, the Eero Konopka's Porsche. So they have not held station, and so 37 must give back the place that it has gained, because as the race director has been reminding the teams on the timing screen, you've got to stay in your grid formation position. That will need to be resolved. Admittedly, it's quite a long way down the order that has switched over. 31st and 32nd is the situation there. You might argue it makes little difference, but rules are rules. And as the cars come across the line, it's another lap done behind the safety car. So we have therefore got almost to the end of the first half an hour of the race with a couple of pit stops, one accident, but no real racing laps as such. Again, you just get a proper idea of how packed the grid is, looking all the way down the pit straight. And as the cars arrive at the first chicane, still there are more pouring out of the Parabolica. More and more frustrated drivers itching to get on with this, particularly the teams that have put the fastest driver in first really are losing out here. There's no opportunity for the quick driver to make any sort of progress, whether it's to gain places or to try and pull away and open up a gap. Mercedes and McLaren getting themselves together there. McLaren, you can see, is the car that Gregoire de Moustier shares with Duncan Tappy. Gregoire de Moustier going first, driving McLaren's for the Hex's team in GT1 this year. Duncan Tappy, quick, young, underfunded British driver, trying to kickstart his career in sports car racing. Former Formula Renault UK champion, and I think somebody who will certainly rise to the challenge in the Blancpain Endurance Series this year. Christopher Mies, you saw going through in number 1 Audi. It's a car that's quite a long way back on the grid with work to do, but the double Bathurst 12-hour winner, certainly a man to watch. The Audis didn't really shine in qualifying yesterday. Christopher Mies, to be fair, 8th on the grid, perhaps not as good as expected, but a long way clear of the sister car. Christopher Mies shares with Christopher Hasse and Stefan Ortelli, the sister car. Marco Bononomi will start, Edward Sandstrom and Laurence Vantour, who, with Stefan Ortelli, took 2 race wins in GT1 at Nogaro a week ago. And according to the timing screen, car 88 might not restart due to chassis damage. There it is, in the pit lane, and Jordan Gregoire looking pretty heartbroken about this. Got some explaining to do as to what he did, but the car in the garage and looking as though that may well be a very early retirement with the damage to suspension and chassis, irrespective of the bodywork damage that we saw when the cameras first picked up the car at the chicane. It was this chicane coming on to the Rettifilo Centrale, down to the Parabolica, that claimed the car, and everybody else filing their way through. No real hint of a dry line as yet, as the rain continues to fall, and at these sorts of speeds, the water not really being squeegeed out of the way. The other problem drivers are going to face when they get underway is, of course, if you want to do any overtaking, you're going to have to go offline to do it, though it's even more perilous. So, in this first stint particularly, drivers have got a real task ahead of them. Now, the Parabolica is the last corner on the lap. Is it one from which the safety car dives for the pit lane, or does it carry on for one more lap? There's your answer. It's going to come across the timing line now. So race order here at Monza is still the grid formation. 71 Ferrari, Stefano Gattuso leads, Mike Sturzberg Porsche in 2nd place. 3rd, Mirko Venturi's Ferrari. 4th, Olivier Plas Porsche. 5th, Mark Gussen's Porsche. 6th at the moment in number 57 is Giacomo Petrobelli's Ferrari. 7th is the Audi number 1 of Christopher Mies. In 8th place it is 13, which is Carl Wendlinger's Mercedes. 9th, Patrice Guélard Ferrari, and 10th is Valentino Rossi, his 2nd car race start when it gets underway in earnest. The safety car is now instructed to go at 120 kilometres an hour. This, I'm hoping, therefore, is the sign for the safety car team to pick up the pace, to enable the drivers to generate a little bit more temperature into the tyres and then to get things underway. Whether it's just one lap at that speed or whether the race director elects to go for an additional one on top of that, we'll wait and see, but it looks now as though we're edging a bit closer to getting the race underway for real. This is lap 9. Still the cars pouring down towards the first chicane. There's the Curiacos BMW, Andrew Smith at the wheel of it. Behind is Miro Konopka's distinctive yellow Porsche that had smash rear suspension in pre-qualifying on Friday afternoon after it was assaulted by a Mercedes. And the Mercedes are pretty big, heavy cars, so if one hits you, you know about it. And that caused a red flag. 52 Ferrari working its way through the chicane. This is the car that Nick Homerson shares with Louis Machiels and Andrea Bertolini. And Nick Homerson and Louis Machiels, the winners of the Pro-Am class in last year's championship. They took 2 class wins. It's Nick Homerson at the wheel of that car. The Italian tricolor over black as the livery. Nick Homerson, former Donkervoort Cup racer, the rather quirky Dutch car that used to race in the Supersport class of the European GT4 Championship, had its own one-make series. He went from that into Ferraris, into Lamborghinis, and drove last year for the Vita 4-1 team. Another car to watch there, another of the McLarens. Now this is number 5, the car that is going to be started by Jack Clark, switching from single-seater racing, in which he's been a quick young British driver, Formula Palmer Audi, Formula 2 particularly, to GT racing for this year. Jack, who began in Formula BMW, stepson of Julian Bailey, sharing the car with Nico Verdonk, who was a race winner outright last year, and Edouard Mondron, moving from the Belgian Touring Car Series, and prior to that the Smart Cup. So a real mixed bag of drivers, but I think that Nico Verdonk and Jack Clark in particular should be pretty evenly matched, and Jack, like all of them at the moment, no doubt frustrated that he can't get on with the job behind the safety car. He's on the tail of Christian Kelder's Porsche. Christian Kelder's another experienced GT racer. He shares with Vincent Rademacher, his fellow Belgian, and that two-driver Porsche team could be another one that's there or thereabouts come the end of the race. So, again, the Parabolica, the safety car, the queue of traffic behind. Are we going to be in business this time around? We've had over half an hour then behind the safety car like this, and with the exception of car 88, nobody really in too much grief, although 47, having said that, has come back into the pit lane and has also remained there. So it's not looking great for McLaren, is it? Two cars in trouble already, and indeed the safety car will do one more lap, although the general pace now has picked up a little bit. It's going to do at least one more lap, so drivers making their way past the pits. There are still cars heading down to the Parabolica, and traffic is going to be a huge problem once the race gets underway. All the drivers in qualifying are saying it was so hard to get a clear lap, but it's the same for everybody, and as long as drivers are alert to what's going on in their mirrors, then hopefully it won't be too much of a problem. But it's a long safety car period to get the race underway here in the WAT at Monza. Frustrating for everybody. There you can see Nick Homerson turning his way out of the first chicane, switching to AF Corsa for this year. Amato Ferrari's crack Ferrari squad, vastly successful in just about every GT championship going, AF Corsa. There's the long line of traffic turning its way now through the first chicane. Let's head to the pit lane, catch up with Jordan Grogar after his accident. He's in the pit lane, so too is Hayley Coxon.
Jordan, a disappointing start for you. Can you explain what happened?
No excuses. Warming up the tyres. There's nothing fundamentally wrong with the track or the grip levels. Probably put on the throttle on a white line, lost the back quickly. Scary, there's a wall there, and I'm just very sorry for the McLaren boys, the Van Rooyen boys, and specifically Leon and Rob, my teammates. Got a lot of making up to do, and you know, hopefully I can do it in the future.
Thank you for talking to us.
Understandably, a very disappointed man, and with the sheet over the car, proof that it's going no further in this opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series. The Van Rooyen team with the second car, but certainly that is not the way they wanted to start the second car, started by Stephen Jelly, another former single-seater racer turned sports car racer. Stephen very successful over the last couple of seasons in the Porsche Carrera Cup GB, having had 2 years in the British Touring Car Championship prior to that, and he shares with the Draper brothers, Julian and Matt, the quicker of whom is Julian, having had lots of experience in Caterhams before he went into Ginetta racing, although both of them, in fact, prolific historic racers as well. So as the safety car comes then down to the Parabolica, now the instruction to the team in the safety car is to go faster. So again, the pace is starting to quicken, and you can see now, in fact, that the field is becoming a little bit more strung out as some drivers are responding to the pace of the safety car, others not doing so just yet, but overall the pace is starting to quicken, and as I said, that means that we're getting closer to getting the race underway in earnest. Eduardo Freitas, the race director, hugely experienced of GT categories, and also the World Endurance Championship this year, for which he is the race director. So with safety in mind, trying to reduce the risks for the drivers by letting them get used to the conditions, and even behind the safety car, as Jordan Grogar has just proved, you can still be caught out if you touch the painted white line, and it can pitch you off the road. So the pace quickening, and all of this will throw some of the team's calculations up into the air. When are we going to see serious pit stops? The rules say you've got to make 2, come what may. So I don't think we're going to have the dramas of last year with 1 or 2 teams needing to pit towards the end to throw a bit more fuel in. Fuel, not a problem. Staying on the track, yes, that could be an issue. Traction, visibility, all of that will be a drama, but when are the teams going to need to call in the cars? There's the number 4 BMW that is started by Henri Moser, switching from Aston Martin to BMW for this year. And that's the car that was crashed by Bert Longin in the first part of qualifying yesterday. The Marc VDS Racing team had such a good end to 2011, with Marcus Pautel, Bas Linders, Maxime Martin winning at Manicourt, winning also at Silverstone. And those three drivers remain together as a team, a second car for this year. Henri Moser plus Bert Langin and Mike Hesemans, and that takes you back a fair few years to the FIA GT Championship when Corvettes used to be successful in the hands of Bert and Mike, and Anthony Kumpen, who is a rival to them this year, driving one of the Mercedes, the KRK racing team. So there is number 4, Henri Moser, the wheel of the BMW Z4, makes a fantastic noise, that car. And last year's Mark VDS BMW, you'll see on the grid for Ecuria Cos, Andrew Smith at the wheel of it, and it was a winning car in British GT at Alton Park a week ago when victory went to Ecuria Cos. Alistair McCaig and Ollie Bryant being victorious. That's the other McLaren that's in trouble, and Lorenzo de Vega brought the car in and now been vacated, so big frustration all round for the team. 2 early pit stops. It's the ASM team. ASM, Antonio Simoes Motorsport, the Portuguese former single-seater racer. You saw in the background Karim Auger, the Saudi Arabian driver, moving from prototypes to GT cars, and with the lights out on top of the safety car, it's in at the end of this lap. And so finally, we're going to be in business at Monza. So now we're going to get a proper idea of who the heroes are in the wet. We know who the first casualty of the conditions is, I'm afraid to say, poor old Jordan Grogor. But now, as we get to proper race conditions, what is going to happen? The pace slows just a little bit. Stefano Gattuso bunches everybody up behind him. There's Mike Sturzberg's Porsche. Behind him is Mercaventuri's Ferrari. Olivier Plas's white Porsche next, just lagging back a bit, perhaps to keep out of the spray. And so now, at the end of lap 11, we go racing. On to lap 12, down towards the first chicane. It's going to be the Ferrari that leads then as they head down towards turn 1. Mike Sturzberg second, and in the spray, Mercaventuri makes his move on the inside. That should put him up into second place, assuming he's got the traction to slow the car down into the corner. He has, so Mercaventuri goes second, and there's one off in the background. It's Jack Clark by the look of it. I think it is, in the orange and black McLaren, who goes all over the grass, spins to the inside. Thankfully, nobody else involved in all of that. How he got to the grass, we didn't see, whether he just aquaplaned or whether he had to go offline to try and dodge somebody, but either way, on the grass on one side of the circuit, spinning across to the other. Unfortunately, nobody else getting involved in that. Further proof of just how treacherous it is. So there's going to be a fair amount of shuffling on this opening lap, with Mark Gustens getting himself up a place, and they're also going backwards. Olivier Plas, Christopher Mies goes by in the number 1 Audi, coming out of the second chicane. Up front then, Stefano Gattuso leading the way, but going after him now, Mercaventuri. Got the 2 Italians and the 2 Ferraris run by different teams. Now starting to go head-to-head as the cars work their way around this first proper racing lap. Lap 12 here at Monza in the opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series. And we're 20 minutes or so away from the end of the first hour. There's the recovering Jack Clark, going around the outside of the number 36 BMW of Stéphane Lemeray. For the quick drivers trying to work their way through the order, this is very, very difficult indeed. The gap, though, between the top 2 is nothing at all. Mercaventuri, I think, may well lead by the end of the lap, but Mark Gustens is going great guns, isn't he, in 3rd place in the Pro Speed Porsche. He has made progress on this first lap. He's almost up with the Ferraris ahead of him. Mike Sturzberg is there 4th, Christopher Mies is 5th, Olivier Plas in 6th, Petrobelli is next up. Then you've got Carl Wendlinger going through, and Valentino Rossi is hanging on in there. Not yet coming under too much pressure as Venturi tries to go for the lead down towards the Parabolica. He looks to the outside there. Is that going to work for the Black Bull Swiss racing team? Not there, it's not. Much quicker through the corner, goes right to the outside of the circuit, looking for a bit more grip, and he's found it. He's going to come out alongside, look for the race lead, and a superb move by Mercaventuri right round the outside in awful conditions at the Parabolica. He leads at the end of the lap then, so Venturi it is, ahead of Stefano Gattuso. Now, can he break away? Mark Gustens is 3rd as they come down towards turn 1. Gattuso tries to fight back, look, in the brighter red Ferrari, goes to the inside line. Thinks better of it, slots back in. Venturi brakes as late as he dares in these conditions and turns his way through the chicane. Gustens up with them 3rd. Sturzberg doing a great job, hanging on to 4th ahead of Christopher Mies in the Audi. Then you've got Olivier Plas, Petrobelli, and behind them, in number 13, is the Mercedes. Carl Wendlinger nominated as the start driver, the timing screen suggesting it's Anthony Kumpen. So, question mark over number 13, therefore, but the car is going well in 8th place nonetheless. In 9th is Patrice Guillard, and that, I'm afraid, is another McLaren in strife. It's one of the Gulf racing cars that's in the wall, and that is Roel Goethe in the car that he shares with Stuart Hall. Mark Gustens up into 2nd place in the meantime, and yellow flags, of course, in that sector with the McLaren up against the wall. Gets going, and look, it's exactly the same problem as Jordan Grogor. Same place, same damage, rear wing ripped off, broken rear suspension, and Dave Price, the team manager of Gulf Racing, I think may well have a word or two to say to the man behind the team, Earl Goethe, about that, because just keeping out of trouble was the main aim in these early laps, and I'm afraid that's another inexperienced driver falling foul of the conditions. Earl Goethe, who raced at Le Mans last year, has been in the ILMC, occasional historic racer, a great collection of Gulf livery racing cars from years past, but that one, for its collection, is looking a bit second-hand. However, the race leaders, with no such dramas, come out of the chicane, with Mirko Venturi being challenged now by Mark Goossens. You can see the way that Stefano Gattuso has dropped back to third and falling away. Christopher Mies is fourth, and there Earl Goethe's car keeping out of the way. That's got a long, slow limp back to the pit lane, and I don't think it's going to be a car that will rejoin the race, sad to say. Towards the Parabolica they come then. Nose to tail for the race lead. Mirko Venturi is, again, taking his wider line, looking for the extra grip there. Mark Goossens takes the conventional line, and he's going to lose a length at least as he comes out of the corner. So Mirko Venturi's demon line through the corner works for him. It pays off again. He comes over the timing line at the end now of lap number 13. Up front, chasing after him, is Mark Goossens. Mirko Venturi leading the Pro-Am class. Mark Goossens in the Pro Cup. And here, more great scraps going on lower down the order, including the 22 McLaren of David Brabham at the head of this little gaggle of cars. Mike Sturzberg under pressure. Got Olivier Pla there, tucked up behind. Then the number 13 Mercedes, the car of KRK Racing. Well, lap number 14 then now here at Monza, this opening round of the championship, and Mirko Venturi leading the way. Last time through, Mark Goossens' Porsche lapped quicker, and there you can see Olivier Pla coming under pressure, defending a Kumpen Mercedes right on the tail. Kuhnbaus is the third driver of that car. It's about to make a move to the inside. Sturzberg holding them up a little bit now, and Olivier Pla is trying to find a way through on the inside, but to no avail. Sturzberg then hangs onto the place. And there's the other Gulf Racing McLaren in strife. Number 9, that's Mike Wainwright at the wheel. And again, look, it's the Ascari chicane that's caught them out. So yet another spinner, yet another problem. Thankfully, that's not got any damage and reverses out of harm's way. It's going to go a lap down, of course, but at least hopefully can still be in the race. The McLaren teams just need the mileage here to keep developing the car. And he's going to rejoin in the pack, isn't he? A lap down just ahead of the Mike Sturzberg traffic jam. And this is for the race lead. You've got Mark Goossens then trying to go to the outside of Mirko Venturi, heading down towards the Parabolica. Can he drive all the way around the outside? Yes, he can. There's that extra bit of grip on the outside. And so Mark Goossens now takes over the race lead. A very brave bit of driving. He comes out ahead then as the cars power over the line. Down towards turn 1. Our third different leader. And so it's the Porsche up front, heading down towards turn 1. Mark Goossens it is then who leads the way. Venturi second. Now can he come back at him? He's in the spray, pulls out to have a look at where the corner is. It's looming. He's got to get back on the brakes, try and get back on line as well, which he does now. So Mirko Venturi stays second. They come through the chicane, and you can see that Stefano Gattuso, the early leader, once the race got properly underway, is really falling away now in third place. Christopher Mies going after him, and still Mike Sturzberg is hanging on to fifth place. Everything that's being thrown at him, he's able to repel. Then you've got Olivier Pla just ahead of Anthony Kumpen next up as they turn their way out of the chicane. Olivier Pla goes to the outside then now as they work their way through the Curva de Biassono. Is he going to be able to go through? Yes, he is. Mike Sturzberg dropped back one place. And look, Olivier Pla released from behind the black Porsche, instantly starts to pull away. Now it's the Mercedes' turn to try and go around the outside. It's a brave effort on the outside into this chicane, but it pays off. So Anthony Kumpen gains the place, and Mike Sturzberg now is falling down the order. But of course, because so little proper racing has been done in this first stint, a quarter of an hour or so away from when you might expect the first round of pit stops, in real terms, he's losing less than he would have done had it been a proper race right from the very start. Valentino Rossi is still 10th, but he's coming under pressure now. Right up behind him is the number 74 Ferrari. That's got Maxime Soulet at the wheel. Matteo Dottore, he's going great guns, isn't he? 9 motorcycling world championships to his name in total. 6 in MotoGP, plus 500cc, 250 and 125 before it. And now it's going to become something of a big noise in sports car racing. We hope it'd be great if Valentino could do more rounds of the Blancpain Endurance Series. For now, there is just this one penciled in, but if he and Alessio Sallucci have a good run here at Monza, then you never know. Commitments allowing, he could be back. Valentino has been a double winner of the Monza rally in years past, a single venue rally held here. And we've seen him on Rally GB in the past, and again, number 9 McLaren is off at the Variante Ascari, and this time in what's become the McLaren parking bay, because that's exactly where the sister car of Royal Goethe ended up and where Jordan Kruger ended up earlier on. So, yet again, I'm afraid there's a McLaren in an awkward place, and hopefully Mike Wainwright can get out of the way, but let's see whether there's any damage done to the car. The leaders in the meantime go towards turn 1. Mark Goossens then lapping quicker, just edging away from Mirko Venturi. Further down the order there, look, you can see a place being gained on the inside because the 51 Ferrari of Gaetano Ardagna, Giuseppe Ciro and Dan Brown goes through, picks up a spot. It's the former Maserati racer, Gaetano Ardagna, the Venezuelan at the wheel. Ferrari number 20. That's the car of Patrice Guélard, losing places at the first chicane. He was 9th, but there's been a bit of a sort out there because Maxime Soulet, who put himself ahead of Valentino Rossi, has got by. So Patrice Guélard drops back. He stayed ahead of Rossi, so 10th place for Guélard. Down to 11th now is Valentino Rossi, with the excellent work being put in by Maxime Soulet's Porsche, gaining ground. That's the second Pro Speed car, the sister car to that leads the way of Mark Goossens. Olivier Pla has now got company because there is the KRK Racing Mercedes, the Wouters Kumpen Wendlinger car right on the tail. These two running together. The battle is on here for 5th and 6th places. Both of these cars run in the Pro Cup. So Anthony Kumpen doing his best here to try and gain a place, but as we've seen, it's not at all easy to go offline and do the overtaking in this weather. Mike Wainwright has got going again despite his second indiscretion. And the number 13 Mercedes that currently runs in 6th spot goes through. Now this is what happened down at the first chicane, and it was Giacomo Petrobelli, I think, also trying to get past Patrice Guélard, and that slowed him, and that's how the Porsche of Maxime Soulet was able to find a way through. So Mark Goossens leads then, Mirko Venturi is 2nd, Stefano Gattuso is 3rd, Christopher Mies 4th, and then this battle you're looking at now for 5th place, the Porsche of Olivier Pla, the Mercedes of Anthony Kumpen up behind, and you've got Mike Sturzberg. Petrobelli's Ferrari is 8th, Patrice Guélard responding, he's back up into 9th in fact, Maxime Soulet dropped back into 10th. And Valentino Rossi, for the moment, rounds in 11th place, but it only needs one puddle to catch you out, you're in grief, and there is another car that goes off the road, David Brabham's United Autosports McLaren. If the weather can catch out Brabs, it can catch out anybody. But yet again, sad to say, it's McLaren's in grief. Every time you look, there's a McLaren having a problem, and it's the conditions more than anything that's catching them out. 83 Olivier Pla stays ahead for the moment. Now, because he's defending, of course, like this, so Anthony Kumpen is being held up, can't find a way through, and they're losing touch with those ahead. Kumpen tries to force the issue on the inside. They disappear into the spray. They head up towards the second chicane. Kumpen looks on the outside. Olivier Pla moves across, takes the line into the corner, so he hangs on to the place then. 2 hours and 11 minutes of racing still to run here at Monza. And now it's game on because the cars at a proper pace, as much as the conditions will allow, now starting to get themselves into the order of the driver's pace and ability. And Mark Goossens, one of the pro drivers, leading the way. He's not giving away too much though, because Mirko Venturi is doing his best to stay with him, but certainly the Porsche looking good. Paul van Splunteren there on the far left, Porsche dealer, who's one of the drivers of 74. You can see the sister car, the one that leads the way. Mark Goossens up front, trying to gap everybody else. He's just edging away from Mirko Venturi. Rattles over the curb coming out of the second chicane there. Heads off up towards the completion of lap number 17. David Brabham, having been off the road, still going, but of course, the legacy of that is he drops down now. He was 16th. And I think as the year goes on, you'll start to see the United Autosports McLarens working their way up the order as the team is able to develop them, to refine them. They certainly don't lack anything in terms of driver ability in 22, for sure. David Brabham, Alvaro Parent, Matt Bell. He may not have been racing for that long, but in a short space of time, that young Matt Bell has acquitted himself very, very well indeed. Porsche battle building up, and just there, rejoining after a pit stop in the background, is the Scuderia Vittoria Ferrari. Michael Lyons, Alessandro Bonetti and Jay Palmer. That car coming back into the race after a pit stop. Bonetti having started in that car. Vigorous flashing of headlights from the quicker drivers as there, look, Kumpen tries to make his move. He's going to get hemmed in behind the traffic, but he's on the inside line. Can he anchor up in time? Just about. Olivier Pla back alongside him. They come out of the chicane. The Porsche gets his nose in front. The Mercedes gets squeezed over the curb, and Olivier Pla hangs onto the place. Great stuff. And all of this being triggered because they've got Bonetti's slow Ferrari just ahead of them in the gloom, and Kumpen being held up a little bit. Pla got through and has built a gap over the Mercedes now. Gap therefore is widened between Porsche and Mercedes, albeit just fractionally. And the next Porsche fight, Mike Sturzberg is about to lose out there because Maxime Soulet goes through on the inside for 7th place. He's gone by. So the Porsche moves through, the Pro Speed car ahead of the Haribo Sweets liveried car run by Bale Motorsport. New team running it for this year. Last year when we saw it at Spa, it was Olaf Manthei's team that ran the car. Got a new squad put together to run it for this year. Valentino Rossi getting onto the back of that group of cars. He's down in 11th place, but he's looking now to try to gain ground if he can. Great Ferrari battle, and he's done so. He goes through the inside, squeezes by. So Valentino Rossi looking to get past Patrice Gouillard as next target. We've done 17 laps here at Monza, and the gap you can see between the top two, 1.7 seconds then between Marc Goossens and Mirko Venturi. Maxime Soulet put himself up now ahead of Mike Sturzberg for 7th place. To escape and see what he can do about the cars ahead. The next target for him is going to be the Mercedes of Anthony Kumpen. That's going to get him up with the Kumpen-Pla battle, therefore. And Christopher Mies in Audi number 1 is starting to gain ground as well. He's now running in 4th place and he's catching cars ahead of him. The Kyrgios pit stop. So Andrew Smith, who started, hasn't been able to do that many racing laps. He's going to give way. I think the intention is that Ollie Milroy does the middle stint, and then Joe Twyman will bring the car home. Famous name, Kyrgios, Le Mans winners in 1956, the year that Ninian Sanderson and Ron Flockhart won in a Jaguar D-Type, and of course 1957 as well. Ron Flockhart joined by Ivor Bueb for that year. We saw the team in the Spa 24 Hours last year with an Aston Martin. This, one of the ex-Mark VDS Racing Team BMWs, and an early stop for the car as Olivier Pla defends from Anthony Kumpen as they turn their way out of the chicane. This battle raging on still for 5th and 6th places. Now, are they going to be caught by Maxime Soulet? Because the Porsche behind, yes, is lapping it over a second a lap quicker, so the gap is coming down because Kumpen's being held up really now by Olivier Pla. It's enabling Maxime Soulet to do something about him. The gap's coming down. Maxime Soulet with Paul van Splunteren and Dylan Deerdal as the 3rd driver, the teenager Dylan Deerdal. Whether the car therefore can maintain this pace across 3 hours remains to be seen, but for now certainly Maxime Soulet's having a real go. Had a good start to his year by winning his class in the European Le Mans Series at Paul Ricard. Valentino Rossi makes his move, does he this time on Patrice Gouillard? He tries to. He goes to the inside there, going into the first of the Lesmo corners, but Patrice Gouillard hangs onto the place. Fantastic battle these two are having, and they're not that far behind Jacopo Petrobelli either, so there's the potential of a 3-way Ferrari fight pretty soon. Valentino Rossi tries to move to the inside there, can't find a way by, it's back into the spray. Down they come towards the Ascari chicane. Is this going to be an opportunity for Valentino to make his move? Let's see, the headlights are not alongside one another, in other words he's staying behind Patrice Gouillard. But for somebody who is in only his 2nd ever car race, this is an amazing debut, isn't it, really, in the Blancpain Endurance Series. In dreadful conditions, there he is, running with one of the top drivers within the Pro-Am class. Down towards the Parabolica they come, as into the pit lane comes number 31, Georges Cabin, last year's Gentleman Trophy winner, to give way. And I think it's Romain Brandella who will take over as Valentino Rossi goes for the inside at the Parabolica and he gains the place. That is going to put him now up into the top 10. Patrice Gouillard tries to brave it out on the outside, but to no avail. The doctor, Valentino Rossi, Il Dottore, then goes 10th at the end of the lap. They need to try and give him as much time in this car as possible, because with every lap done he gets stronger and stronger in it, and now he's mixing it with a very experienced GT racer. Valentino Rossi then goes over the timing line in 10th place. What can he do about Giacomo Petrobelli, because the car ahead is the next target there. Look, the red and black Ferrari turning its way into the first chicane. Petrobelli, who drives for the Vita 4-1 Team Italy squad, in other words the satellite operation run by Matteo Bobbi, and a spin there. Number 19 Mercedes rotates. British driver Oliver Morley doing the first stint, former Ferrari Challenge racer, although go back many, many years. He was part of the XR Challenge at Dalton Park for old Ford Fiestas, and returning to international racing this year, Oliver Morley. He's lost it, thankfully without any damage, but now what he's got to do is find a gap in the traffic. Jerome Thierry and Ricardo Brudchin, his co-drivers. And Oliver Morley now, as I say, has to wait for a gap in the traffic. That is not the work of the moment when so much traffic is now all the way around the lap. Stand in one place and watch the cars. It's just a constant stream now. So the Mercedes tries to rejoin into the yellow flag zone. Well, there it is on the outside of the road. Oliver Morley now trying to reverse out of the way, but it's just getting through 180 degrees back in the right direction. That's the problem. Are we going to need the safety car here to really allow a gap in the traffic? If we do, then that will possibly have a real rush of pit stops. Oliver Morley tries to get going. He's found a gap to go across the circuit. Now he's got to hope he's got enough lock to avoid the barrier. No, he hasn't. It's going to be a 3-point turn here. And of course, this is going to put him a lap down at the very least. So the Mercedes for the Black Falcon Racing team tumbles down the order. Almost at the end of the first third of the race here. The marshal there saying, just hang on a minute. There's another car coming yet. And now he says, go, 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 go. Oliver Morley, to be fair to him, has kept the engine fired up. Reverses back onto the road and drops behind Craig Wilkins' Audi. Oliver Morley, having done the complicated part, now needs to get going. And he does so. As I say, that's going to drop that car a long way down the order. It's going to put him to 48th place, if not worse, in fact, depending on how many other cars were able to squeeze past him. So a very, very time-consuming drama. And there is the Mercedes then back up and running. But the fact that it's not going any quicker than this suggests that it may have been a problem that caused it to have the spin rather than just the weather conditions, because Oliver Morley has not really gone charging back into contention. So the yellow flag's thankfully withdrawn. Green flags all the way around the lap. You're looking at Valentino Rossi, who is lapping quicker by a full second over the last lap than Giacomo Petrobelli. So the gap's coming down now for 9th and 10th places. Flash of the headlights there from Petrobelli at Mike Stursberg to say, look, get out of my way, please. I'm quicker than you. And he needs to speed up as well, does Petrobelli, because he's being reeled in by Rossi. But Stursberg is doing exactly what's required of him there in the black Porsche, the Haribo Sweets car, because he's defending his place. Down to the Parabolica comes the Porsche of Miro Konopka. Behind is the Jones Brothers Mercedes. Through the gloom, you can see the rest of the traffic. Pit stop time for number 5, Jack Clark, having had his big drama off the release from behind the safety car. Big spin, and into the pit lane for the first of the 2 mandatory stops. Nico Verdonk and Edouard Mondron, the other drivers of that car. Oliver Morley has brought the Mercedes in, incidentally, after that spin. 49th, indeed, he dropped to. So the cars almost getting themselves to the end of the first hour, and so very shortly we're going to be seeing yet more and more pit stops. Curie Kos did indeed put Ollie Milroy into the car. There you can see the race leader Mark Goossens, who is getting away from Mirko Venturi, but has now got himself caught up behind number 31, still being shown as Georges Cabin, but I would dispute that because they've got to get 2 more drivers cycled through. Romain Brandella, I think, is the logical second driver. Fabien Tounet, who only got the call to come and drive on Thursday afternoon, was the man that gave the car the quickest time in class in qualifying yesterday afternoon. So maybe they're going to keep him for the last stint as the faster driver. Yes, indeed. Now it's gone through the first sector. The timing screen wakes up and says it is Romain Brandella at the wheel of the Gentleman Trophy winning car of last year. So Georges Cabin has done his work for now. Romain Brandella, the next man behind the wheel. That car in 50th place overall. It's never going to be a challenger for an outright position, but it needs to be considered for a class win. The Gentleman Trophy this year, more competitive than ever. Bit of opposite lock being applied by Olivier Plat, who is still coming under pressure from Anthony Kumpen. Has he got through this time? Kumpen has got through this time, but then gets crossed up himself, runs out wide. Olivier Plat trying to find a gap on the inside, but to no avail. Stefano Gattuso being reeled in by Christopher Mies. Then Kumpen having got himself up past Plat. So 5th for the Mercedes, 6th for the Porsche. And then behind 7th is Maxime Soulet. And in 8th place is the Stursberg, Petrobelli, Rossi, Guillard train of cars. And in 12th place, creeping into the picture, is number 14, Dennis Retterer, who has just done the best of anybody in the first sector. Dennis Retterer in another of the KRK Racing Mercedes. Sister car to this that you're looking at of Kumpen, Wouters and Wendlinger. And Dennis Retterer, a very quick single-seater racer in years past, now coming into the equation as well. So after that long safety car period at the beginning, we've managed to go for over half an hour or so now without any further dramas, despite one or two more spins that we've seen around the lap. Into the pit lane comes the Kessel Racing Ferrari there. In fact, the pit lane now getting busier and busier all the time. We've had 23 come in, which is the United Autosports McLaren. Mark Patterson has brought that car in. Blue flags busily waved by the marshals. And looking further down into pit stop territory. Number 30, Craig Wilkins, in for Peter Belshaw. Maxime Soulet there, you can see, is getting closer and closer all the time to the traffic ahead of him. Soulet going after Olivier Pla, but Monza and Porsche's going pretty well together here. Mark Goossen's still leading. Porsche won here last year in a very different type of race. Mark Goossen's leading the way, although his last lap was a pretty slow one. Maybe that was traffic, but Mirko Venturi over a second quicker on that last lap. Nick Homerson has just brought 52 into the pit lane, one of the cars to consider for AF Corsa in the Pro-Am class. But there, Stefano Guttuso versus Christopher Mies. This is the battle building up nicely now for third place. Race leaders on lap 23. The order: Porsche, Ferrari, Ferrari, Audi, Mercedes, Porsche. Mark Goossen's ahead of Mirko Venturi and Stefano Guttuso. Fourth is Christopher Mies, and fifth and sixth, Anthony Kumpen and Olivier Pla. That is how the order is for now. It's all going to jumble itself around very shortly when we get to the first round of pit stops. Christopher Mies then pushing on. He did a personal best lap last time to close on Guttuso, and Olivier Pla falling back. Maxime Soulet working his way past. So Soulet for Pro Speed going well. Who do they put in the car next? Paul van Splinteren probably, who is quick, not as quick as Maxime Soulet. And now, of course, for the leaders, traffic becoming ever more of a problem. Some of the drivers are there as back markers because they pitted, others because they're just not as quick as those around them. And there, Maxime Soulet, another driver to use the outside grippier line, puts himself up and past Anthony Kumpen, and he made that look very, very easy indeed. Is Kumpen heading for the pit lane? Yes, he is. So the Mercedes comes in, hence not much of a fight put up by the Belgian driver. But as he comes down the pit lane, the team manager, I noticed, a number 30, which is GT3 Racing. That's the Craig Wilkins, Peter Belshaw, Aaron Scott, Audi being summoned to see the race director. Valentino Rossi is in now, number 46. So down the pit lane comes the Italian. The motorbike star comes down the pit road, and why is that yellow flag waving at turn one? It's because somebody's had a drama, but it's round the corner and we can't see who it is just yet. So let's try and work out in a moment who and why, but we've got yellows waving at turn one. That was where we saw Jack Clark have his big lose when the race got underway in earnest. Ferrari just rejoining the race, you can see there. That was the car that Nick Homerson brought into the pit lane. And Louis Machiels takes it over. His co-driver from last year. A job well done by Valentino Rossi as he gets out of the car. And Alessio gets in. Alessio Salucci then to do the middle stint, and then they'll put Rossi presumably back in for the last stint. He certainly showed his pace in that car. Can it be a top 10 finisher at the end of 3 hours of racing? Great result if it could do so. So Mark Goossen still leading the way, trying to maximise exactly what he can do in this opening stint. And another car in trouble, that's Gregoire de Moustier's car, number 12. It's still de Moustier in the wheel, and in 20th place that car was. McLaren turns itself around, thankfully without any damage, carries on in the race, but has lost a little bit of time. Rattles over the curb at the second chicane, back onto the road now. Mark Goossen's now trying to work his way through traffic. Gets himself past 23, the United Autosports McLaren. Now that was a car that pitted quite early. Mark Patterson that brought it in. Patterson's still being shown, in fact, to the man behind the wheel. But again, I think that's because the transponder setting is in the wrong place. Mark Goossen's then brings his way to the inside, works his way past the traffic. His last lap, Mark Goosen's lap, was a 2 minutes 5, nearly a full second quicker, as off goes, but I think was the Oriental McLaren, which spins to the inside of the second chicane. Yes, heading back towards the circuit now. The JAS Motorsport car gets back onto the track, right in the way of the traffic as well, doesn't it? A slow car recovering and on the racing lines, and that gives headaches for those behind. Christopher Mies, in the meantime, going through. We've got Maxime Soulet in the pit lane now. Petrobelli is in, Patrice Guéla is in, so the whole complexion of the race starting to change because we're getting more and more pit stops. So the order becoming ever more jumbled. The one constant is that Mark Goossens leads the way. Mirko Venturi going after him still. Now on this lap, Venturi quicker in the first sector. It is all down to traffic and where you catch the back markers. I still think of the two that Goossens has got the stronger package here. The car looking very, very good in these conditions. Remember, he was able to work his way through the traffic and then pull away. Now, number 30 pitted, changed driver, but not tyres. That's why the car, this is the Craig Wilkins started, now Peter Belshaw Audi, had its team manager go to the race director. So number 30 will pit again to change the tyres under the regulations. So that is why the team, new to this level of racing, was having his team manager summoned up the stairs. A pit stop loses you a lap in real terms. There's 74 Porsche then, getting back into the race. That was the car that was started so effectively by Maxime Soulet. Mark Goossens in 75 still leading the race. '74 now in 8th place. This is the car that Maxime Soulet started, and it has been given over to the Belgian teenager, 19-year-old Dylan Daerdalen. So now let's see what he can do, because he should get a proper hour of racing, it will take now, without any lengthy safety car periods at the start of it, to really reduce people's ability to have a proper stint. We saw him at the end of last year driving the Alpina BMW, and for this year, Dylan Daerdalen racing Porsche. So Goossens, Venturi, Gattuso, Pla remaining the top 4, because Christopher Mies has now pitted. And here in this great gaggle of cars wriggling through the chicane, number 14, Dennis Retterer, carrying on the good work for KRK Racing that Anthony Kumpen was doing earlier on. And Dennis Retterer, having got himself up now past Mike Stursberg, in fact, he's going to be 6th, and at the end of the lap, if he stays out, will be 5th, because you've got Christopher Mies having come into the pit lane himself. So Dennis Retterer, as he gets towards the end of a fuel load, and therefore the car gets lighter and quicker, he's going great guns here. Came to the Formula Ford Festival many years ago and was very, very quick. Had a part season in British Formula 3, was quick, but didn't get the results that he wanted, and the money ran out, and so he's been hunting for GT drives ever since. Given the right equipment, Dennis Retterer can go very, very well indeed. Mike Stursberg there, putting a lap on Romain Brandella. Christopher Hasse has just taken number 1 Audi into the race, and that car is now another one to watch, I think, because it's been there or thereabouts throughout the first stint. The Pressy Spark Mercedes, run by Team Pyro for the Jones brothers, David and Godfrey coming towards us. Drivers that are not just racing in the Blancpain Endurance Series this year, but British GT as well. That's Mark VDS Racing getting on, because number 3, there it is, in fact, going down towards the first chicane, is currently shown in 14th place, and Dylan Daerdalen right up behind as well. Number 3 has got Bas Leinders at the wheel of it. Marcus Palton has started, and I think it's fair to say that Bas is a bit quicker than Marcus in that car. And then Maxime Martin, who is the team's star turn really, does the last stint and normally does heroic things. But Bas Leinders, I reckon, in number 3 BMW for Mark VDS Racing, now becoming a man to watch. Yes, the car hasn't got the outright pace of some of the others, but in the wet conditions it's less of a handicap. And now that you've got quicker drivers in for stints 2 and 3, it's going to start creeping up the order. The leader is in, Mark Goossens in the pit lane, Mirko Venturi is in, Stefano Gattuso is in, Olivier Pla is in, and so Mike Stursberg stays out, going a long way, in fact, in the first stint in that car. I suspect Hans-Guido Riegel will get a pretty short stint, and then Richard Westbrook as much time as he's able in the end to bring the car back into the picture. Retterer is in, Stéphane Lemeray is in, and Gregoire de Moustier, who we saw having a spin, has also pitted from his McLaren. Give way to Duncan Tappy. It'll be interesting to see how Duncan gets on in that car now as well. So the order changes all the time. Back into the race goes 75 Porsche. Xavier Marson now at the wheel of it. Mark Henrici, therefore, will do the last stint. Xavier Marson sets the car up for the chicane. Will keep the lead of the race. Mirko Venturi's car yet to hand the car back to the co-driver to go to the race. And we're getting news that after Valentino Rossi's great stint, Alessio Salucci has had a curb-hopping moment at the second chicane. He's got away with it, but that will have cost him a little bit of time. Right, Mirko Venturi, having led briefly, has given the car over to Tommaso Maino. And number 71, the car that led right at the very start, is now going to be Davide Rigon at the wheel. That's going to be one to watch, isn't it? Now, who do they put in 83? Eric Clement for the second stint after Olivier Pla? That would make sense. Then Philippe Gache for the end of the race. As Dennis Retter's car, which now has got Marius Ritschkers at the wheel of it, Dennis Retter having brought it up the order. The third driver of that car, Raphael Vanthor, whose son Laurence is in the number 2 Audi. And you can see that the difference in pace absolutely evident straight away there compared to what Dennis Retter was able to do in that car. Marius Ritschkers rather slower. The Joneses Mercedes pounces and goes storming past. So Xavier Marson up front, and number 8 Porsche now pitting, and Hans-Guido Riegel will take over the car. Number 30, there you can see just rejoining after its enforced pit stop. Peter Belshaw having to come in to change tyres because they didn't do that in the first stop, but you should do under the regulations. So the car now, having lost time, rejoins the race. So they thought they were being clever by saving time and keeping it on the original set of tyres. And the marshals report to the race director, and so the car has to come back in, and it loses the time they thought they were going to save. Battles raging on all the way through the order at the moment, including the Yannick Malagol, Jean-Marc Bachelier, Howard Blanc, Ferrari there, number 49. Ferrari, McLaren and Audi all running together, including their number 41, the Santilot car that was started by the venerable Marc Soord, who has been racing touring cars and GT cars forever and a day. Robert Hissam at the wheel of it now. Pierre Hershey will be the third driver. Bas Linders has just done number 3 BMW's fastest lap of the race, so that car becoming, as I suggested it might, more of a factor. And when Hans-Guido Riegel brings number 8 over the timing line next, we'll start to get a proper idea really of the order. You've just seen the Vita 4-1 BMW go through the shot. It's always distinctive, that car, as you can see. A pretty happy Valentino Rossi on the pit wall, but the black and turquoise Vita 4-1 colours now with Frank Kechler behind the wheel of 66. That car is in 11th place. There it is, down towards the Parabolica. Battle going on ahead, which he's going to be part of pretty soon. And is that another McLaren in strife without a wheel? By the look of it, yes it is, I think. Limping on. It's lost its left rear wheel, and the car crippled, limps on. That's going to bring out the white flags to warn everybody of a slow car ahead. And again, it's the McLarens in these conditions that just seem to have had so many problems, whether it's spins or actual accidents. Very, very difficult indeed. Now, Valentino Rossi, there's his car, did a superb first stint. Let's hear from him. He's in the pits with Haley.
Valentino, an impressive start to the GT racing. Were you happy with the performance of yourself in the 458?
Yeah, I enjoy a lot. Also, if the conditions are very bad, and at the beginning with a lot of water, with a lot of car, you don't understand where is the track. But at the end, I take my rhythm, and I was quite fast. I was not so bad. My stint was okay, so I enjoy a lot. And now we have what's on the car, and we will see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great job by Valentino Rossi then, and he now studies the data, and hopefully he will do the final stint in that car well. Change about on the track, never mind changing drivers at the moment, and so it's looking pretty good still for Porsche. Xavier Marson doing a good job. Now there's a nice sight, the Viper. Every GT race should have the Viper in it if possible, and the car of Guerlain Soudier, Luc Paillard and Gilles Vannelet running in the Gentleman Trophy. Better variety in that class this year. You've got the Dodge Viper against Ferrari, against Lamborghini and Audi. So Xavier Marson it is who leads the way now from the number 8 Porsche, which managed to stay out a bit later, creep back up the order. Hans-Guido Riegel at the wheel of it, but he's going to lose out, in fact has lost out on this lap, because now number 1 has gone past, Christopher Hasse has gone past him. So the order continues to sort itself out, and where does Hans-Guido Riegel drop to at the end of this next lap? Marson leading the way. Now Christopher Hasse, who is slightly longer into his stint, is lapping a fair bit quicker at the moment. And the gap therefore is coming down and down between the leaders. Looking briefly at the number 2 Audi. And that car too is starting to become a little bit more of a factor now. got Edward Sandstrom at the wheel of it. Remember how well he did at the Spa 24 Hours last year, finished second from 49th on the grid, and the car is in 10th place. Look at this for a traffic jam. Frank Kessler trying to work his way on the inside through the Ferrari battle, and he has done so, I think. Ahead of him is number 20, Patrice Goëlat. BMW then charges on out of the first chicane. Frank Kessler now up into 8th place. You've also got Edward Sandstrom running with this gaggle as well. So race order, 75, Xavier Marson leads the way. Second now, number 1, Christopher Hasse. In 3rd place has become the number 13, Mercedes, Koen Wouters. In 4th place, number 64, Tommaso Maino. Then Davide Rigon, his Ferrari that he took over from Stefano Gattuso. And Bas Linders up into 6th place now. In 7th place, yet to stop, I think I'm right in saying, is Giacomo Petrobelli. And there's the crippled McLaren limping on, and the race leader putting one more lap on him. Xavier Marson goes through. In 8th place is Frank Kessler, but Kessler still storming on, and there's going to be another place to be gained, I think, before much longer. 9th at the moment, Patrice Goëlat, still shown behind the wheel of number 20, and then in 10th place, Edward Sandstrom in the Audi. But Ansky de Riegel is down in 11th place, needs to try and stay on the lead lap if he can to give Richard Westbrook a chance in the final hour of the race. Now there's Christopher Hasse chasing Xavier Marson, and that last lap over a second faster. So it's Porsche versus Audi, but the gap is coming down in terms of lap time. Flash of the headlights at the Ferrari there to say, come on, get out of the way. And Christopher Hasse turns his way out of the first chicane. Former GT3 European champion now puts a lap on the Ferrari, sets off in pursuit of Xavier Marson. Managing the traffic here, very, very important. The last thing you need is to get a slower car in front of you at a very tight, twisty part of the circuit and lose yet more time. Let's see what Christopher Hasse does in the first sector. Has that car got in his way? Not much. He still pulled 3/10 back from Xavier Marson. In other words, the gap comes down a little bit more. Now, Koen Wouters running next versus Tommaso Maino. Koen Wouters taking over from Anthony Kumpen, musician, part of the Belgian group Clouseau, but a very quick racing driver in his own right in things like Belcar and Belgian touring car racing. There's Pierre Dieudonné, the team manager of the Belgian Audi club, Team WRT, watches Christopher Hasse's progress, but Koen Wouters starting to get away from Tommaso Maino. Davide Rigon's going to be one to watch, though, 5th and lapping quicker than the 2 ahead of him. So, number 71, Ferrari, a car to watch. Koen Wouters, though, here is running 3rd in number 13 Mercedes. As I say, a pretty impressive job this, and he's getting away from Tommaso Maino. Maino having taken over from Mirko Venturi. Getting news that number 98 has stopped at turn 10, but now rejoined. Number 98 being Jan Brunstedt, Michael Bender, and Jocke Mang's Audi. Michael Bender, the man behind the wheel of the car. It was started by Jocke Mang's. So there you can see what the gap is like, 2nd to 3rd. Going up now with Christopher Hasse lapping consistently quicker than Koen Wouters. But Wouters in turn getting away from number 64 Tommaso Maino behind him. Wouters now powering his way out of the parabolica, heading up over the timing line. And a very experienced GT racer, somebody who also, when time permits, dabbles in rally raids. He has done the Paris-Dakar Rally in years past as well. Christopher Hasse once again at the first chicane encounters traffic. Last time he was a 2.5 quicker than Xavier Marson, so the gap continues to come down between them. Another flash of the headlights from number 1 to say, look, I'm coming through, get out of the way. And how's Bas Linders getting on? He's still 6th, and he's running at the same kind of pace as Davide Rigon ahead of him. So things are building up nicely in this second stint. There is car 1. It runs in 2nd spot, and Christopher Hasse a little bit down in the first sector of this lap because of the traffic. We saw 64 Tommaso Maino a moment ago, and he is the man being caught by Davide Rigon. There he is, Tommaso Maino. Currently leading the Pro-Am Cup for Black Bull Swiss Racing. You can see that he's stuck in traffic, and therefore he is being challenge by Davide Rigon in the background, and look, Rigon is only just ahead of Bas Linders. Those two cars running together, so Ferrari and BMW giving themselves nose to tail for 5th and 6th places now. Behind them is a very rapid Ferrari, lower down the order at number 20. It's still being shown as Patrice Gouillard, but it's just done its best lap time of the race, which makes one think that it's Ludovic Badet now that's got behind the wheel of that, and that car is becoming more of a factor as well. So down towards the Variante Ascari. There is Davide Rigon, Bas Linders right up behind him. This is the battle now for 5th and 6th places, Ferrari and BMW. And the Mark VDS Racing Z4 that was nowhere really in the first stint as Marcus Palton has struggled. The Finn, experienced driver, but it's not as quick as Bas Linders nor Maxime Martin. Now the car looking totally different. It's going much quicker, and there is Maxime Martin, who will do the last stint of the car. And as we saw last year at Manicourt and against Silverstone, he really is a star driver these days. So number 3 BMW, one to watch. And look, Bas Linders goes to the outside where there's a bit more grip. He's trying to get around the traffic as well as get past Davide Rigon. Rigon gets blocked in, and so through the traffic and up one place overall goes Bas Linders, then now up into 4th, and he is, believe it or not, lapping quicker than the race leader at the moment. Xavier Marston's last lap was a 2:07. Bas Linders doing 2:06. So the number 3 BMW, I still think is going to be another potential winning car. Last year in this equivalent race, it was a Ford that Mark VDS Racing ran. It looked a potential winner, but it needed fuel at the end. And Davide Rigon was trying to make a move there. Did it work? No. Tommaso Maino has stayed ahead as they come to the chicane. Back marking Porsche ahead. Now, Maxime Martin watching all this from the pit lane. He must be pretty chuffed with how things are going. Let's hear from him. Hayley.
Max, Baz is on fire out on track despite these challenging conditions.
Yeah, it's good. It's a really good conditions for the car. So we start 18, so we are now 5. So but the race is still long, so we will see. It's good.
Thank you.
So Maxime Martin goes back to his timing screen, which is what's really concerning him. Now 22 has stopped on the circuit, and I'm afraid to say it's another McLaren. It's the David Brabham car, and 22 therefore, if it can get going at all, is going to be a long, long way down the field. Matt Bell at the wheel of it, and there Davide Rigon makes his move and puts himself back ahead, coming down for the first chicane of Bas Linders. BMW, that had looked so good a couple of laps back by going around the outside of the Ferrari, is now kind of put in its place again, isn't it? So Davide Rigon getting a bit more familiar perhaps with Ferraris and the wet now in the Blancpain Endurance Series, starting to up his game, moves himself back ahead of the BMW, and now he's going to try and get away. He's got to get himself through the traffic as well here if at all possible. And very nearly leans there on 33, which is the Touchepont Demont Leclerc car. Antoine Leclerc, the former Mark VDS Racing Team driver, one of the Porsche pedallers this weekend in that car. Right, Linders now flashing the light to try and get past. And does 33 get out of the way? No, it does not. Stays, I'm afraid, on line there. Now Bas Linders makes his move. Now it should work for him. Eric Dermont at the wheel. Tommaso Maino will be the next man to try to make a move on that car as well. You can see the other Von Ryan McLaren, Davide Rigon, trying to put a lap on that car, which is the Stephen Jelly Draper Brothers McLaren. He can't afford to get held up for too long, otherwise Bas Linders will be right back with him. So Davide Rigon now running in 4th place, and while he's been battling with Bas Linders, so Koen Wouters has really upped his game, because from being in the 2:10 bracket, he's now doing laps in the 2:6s, looking a lot better for him. So therefore, there's more work to be done here by Davide Rigon to try to get himself really up with the back of the Mercedes. Over the timing line goes Bas Linders. Now Tommaso Maino also here trying to stay with him. Again, I think as Tommaso gets more comfortable in this stint, so he looks stronger. And as they dive down towards the chicane, up behind him is 57. Now that was the car started by Giacomo Petrobelli. It is still being shown as Petrobelli, but I doubt it very much. And it has the kind of Eugenia Amos feel at the moment. There's another quick driver in that car. It's another one that's not being reflected properly on the timing screen, but Petrobelli did the first stint. And there's no way he can do 90 minutes. So there's been a driver change, but the transponder setting in the wrong place. But Eugenio Amos, Lamborghini salesman, very quick driver in Lamborghini Super Trofeo, as well as his occasional Blancpain outings. There it is, 57. As I say, it looks like it's him now doing these kind of lap times and coming into the equation a little bit more. There is 22, another sad sight, I'm afraid, another troubled McLaren. David Brabham, having been through the gravel, gave the car to Matt Bell, and it is a retirement, the car being pushed away, yellow flags being waved by the marshals, and another frustrated team with a McLaren that isn't going to go to the end. And there, drama, as the Valentino Rossi Ferrari ends up shoveling out of the way Romain Brandella. Rossi having given the car over to Alessio Salucci, and Salucci, who's a more experienced racer than Valentino, rather disgracing himself there. The car down at the start of the lap in 19th place. Well, it's going to be delayed even more. And has it suffered much damage out of all of that? Romain Brandella we saw getting all sideways. He may have had a tap to begin with anyway from Alessio Salucci, but the Ferrari now struggling to pick up pace, and there is Romain Brandella. Now this of course is the car to beat in the Gentleman Trophy. Just at the moment it is going nowhere. Salucci continues, and let's have a look at what happened. There's the Mark VDS Racing BMW, car 4, diving past, and Salucci sees a gap and tries to go for it, but I don't think that was really ever on, was it? All that happens as he turns around the Lamborghini, pitches himself off the road. So it's all drama here within the first round of the Blancpain Endurance Series. The number 4 BMW, incidentally, we saw working its way through the fun and games. That's now being driven by Bert Longchamp, and it is another car starting to creep into the picture. There's the sister car, number 3, Bas Linders, working his way now through traffic. Still being chased by Eugenio Amos, but that car's getting stronger and stronger, I reckon, now. The gap between the leaders, 12.7 seconds now. Last time around, fractionally quicker was the number 1 Audi as against the number 75 Pro Speed Porsche. Now how about this? Tremendous Ferrari fight going on. Lots of Latin, Italian gestures being waved around, and that's the team that runs Valentino Rossi and Alessio Salucci's car, Kessel Racing. And I think they might be a bit concerned that that contact has done some damage at the front of the Ferrari. Salucci trying to get himself back up to pace. How about this? Almost 3 wide, Formula Ferrari diving down to the chicane. Number 20, Ludovic Badet. 38, a car that is a lap down after its early pit stop, and a very, very sideways Ferrari as well being ushered on. You've got there Edward Sandstrom almost pushing the car out of the way. The Scuderia Vittoria car having been delayed early on. Now trying to get itself back into the picture. Jay Palmer at the wheel. Returned to racing last year for United Autosports, in fact, in an Audi. Michael Lyons will do the 3rd stint in that car. It has lost ground, of course, because of its earlier pit stop. Running in 44th place overall, another of the cars in the Pro-Am class. There it is, going over the timing line. Edward Sandstrom pushing on in number 2 Audi, up into 9th place now. So the order, 75, Xavier Marson leads the way. And it could be an order that changes in a moment, look, because diving down to the chicane, there is the Eugenio Amos Ferrari again trying to gain a place, but to no avail. So Bas Linders hangs on to 5th. So Marson leading. Christopher Hasser is in 2nd place for Audi. Mercedes Kuhnbauter's 3rd. 4th Ferrari Davide Rigot. This battle 5th. Bas Linders versus what we think is Eugenio Amos, because Petrobelli, although shown as driving the car, has been in it since the start, and that can't be the case. Behind them is Tommaso Maino, then Patrice Guillard. According to the timing screen, really has the feel of being Ludovic Badet now. 8th, 9th Edward Sandstrom, and 10th is Frank Kekler, who is surprising me a bit by not going quicker than this. We know the BMWs are struggling for top-end speed around Monza, but Kekler not getting anything like as well as Bas Linders is here. So the car, relatively speaking, the Vita 4.1 BMW, a long way down in only 10th place. Now there, with damage, is Jay Palmer. You've just seen him getting involved in that battle against cars on the lead lap, and now I'm afraid with damage he's heading back towards the pit lane, possibly. The car a long way down the order anyhow. but now looking a bit dog-eared. In the background, the yellow Porsche there, a car that started its weekend rather badly with smashed rear suspension when Stefano Crotti was driving it. It's Crotti driving at the moment as well, in fact, and that car running in 44th place. 52, Louis Machiels, one of the cars that pitted quite early on in the race. Worked its way through the chicane, and in the midst of all of this is the race leader, who just gets around the outside of Alessio Salucci. Well, we know what he can do at that chicane by turning other cars around, but thankfully Xavier Martin escapes without any dramas. Still pushing on. What's the gap this time between him and the opposition? It is 12.5 seconds. It's remained round about that for the last few laps, really. 52, Louis Machiels just gone through the shot, dropping down the order now, 23rd place. Xavier Martin working his way through traffic. Gets himself past back markers. And Xavier Martin can ill afford to be too careful about this, because the car that he's trying to pull away from has got another very quick driver still to come in the person of Stefan Ortelli. Last year, Stefan was a little bit wild on occasions and did a bit of damage. Think back to Manicure as one example, when he had the bonnet fly open after contact, when he was a little bit ambitious with the move. But if he can keep out of trouble, we know that Ortelli is still as good as ever, former Le Mans winner. He will do the last stint in number 1, and the car he needs to chase is just there, going through the shot, the 75 Porsche that Marc Henrici will take over. And I think probably it's fair to say that Stefan is a little faster than Marc Henrici in a GT car, so there's another intriguing battle building up for late in the race. Now, where's Richard Westbrook's car? 12th in the hands of Hans-Guido Riegel. More traffic for Salucci to try to work his way past here, including the 430 Ferrari just up ahead of him, the car that Pablo Palladino started, Paolo Andreesi and Beniamino Caccia, the other two drivers. Through the gloom, cars down towards the Parabolica once again. There's the second placed Audi, and still Christopher Haase is being able to catch the race leading car. Now the team manager of number 46 being summoned to see the race director. Need you ask who 46 is? It's the Valentino Rossi Alessio Salucci Ferrari, and the race director would like a word. We're also being told the demise of 22 Matt Bell was to do with a failed alternator, so that's why the car stopped. No power getting to it. You see Frank Kessler wriggling his way through the chicane, still in 10th place, going after Tommaso Maino, who's really dropped down the order over the last few laps. So Frank Kessler does have a chance of gaining ground, although his lap times aren't stunning. And another team manager being summoned to see the race director comes from team number 33, that being the Porsche we saw earlier on, the Antoine Leclerc, Eric Dermont, David Touchebon Porsche that was getting in the way of some of the quicker drivers. Number 90 Mercedes rumbles on. How are the Jones brothers doing? They are now in 30th place, having just dropped back, in fact, behind Marco Ciocci, who has taken over from Jack Gerber in the number 50 Ferrari. And Marco Ciocci, another very, very fast Italian who excels in these sorts of cars these days, working wonders and gaining a place from the Mercedes. Now there in third spot, Koen Wouters, who is being caught by Davide Rigon. Last time through, the gap had come down by a full 2 seconds. And Davide Rigon has got to make up 11 seconds in total, 11.7. The fastest lap of the race, incidentally, being credited to Greg Gilvert, who has taken over, as you've got Jay Palmer limping into the pit lane in number 38 for Scuderia Vittoria. We saw that car a little earlier, remember, with the flapping bodywork and with the tyre having ripped itself off. A long, long inlet down the pit lane it comes. In fact, not down the pit lane, it pulls off. So, end of the day, seemingly for number 38, Jay Palmer. The British team, Scuderia Vittoria, owned by Piers Maserati, Danny Buxton and Tom Ferrier, all very quick racers in their own right, who put together this team for last year and have been race winners in things like British GT as well as the Clio Cup in the UK, and had some good results in Blancpain over the last season as well. Battles lower down the order because as the Kessel Racing Ferrari comes across the line, right up there with it is the Christian Kelders Vincent Rademacher Porsche. Car number 58, Christian Kelders started in that. Vincent Rademacher at the wheel. Down to the turn 1 chicane, more traffic for them to work their way past. Vincent Rademacher currently in 25th place. So as we approach the end of the middle hour of the race, you can look at Davide Rigon there, diving down towards the first chicane. Managed to shake off Bas Linders pretty effectively. And he's now looking for a way past 41, Robert Hissam in the Audi. The Santilot racing car that runs in the Gentleman Trophy. Robert Hissam having taken over from Mark Soord. And the car currently in 41st place. Now, a great first stint was done for Pro Speed by Mark Goossens. The car leads the way. Let's hear from the Belgian with Haley in the pits.
Mark, it's certainly looking like the Porsche's performing well here today.
Yeah, I think it was more a matter of getting out of the spray in the beginning. I understand they had a long safety car period there to start with, which is understandable, but for us up front it wasn't too bad from the beginning, so it was a shame the stint was a little too short for me, but yeah, I made my way through the traffic pretty much okay in the beginning. And you know, you can start building from there on, because then at least you can find your braking references, etc. But Xavier's doing pretty well, so I think we gained a lot on the pit stop too. So again, thanks to Pro Speed, because they're really good in the pit lane.
Thank you.
Now the race leaders on lap number 39 at the moment, and the race leading car, we just heard from one of its drivers, Xavier Martin is in, and Mark Henrici will take over, and Christopher Haase in second place in the Audi continues to chase down. Now their lap times in traffic becoming pretty similar, so the gap has stabilised, but the one to watch is Davide Rigon against number 13 Koen Wouters for third place. You can see still how bad the conditions are. It's not stopped raining all day. It is still desperately treacherous for the drivers. And Bas Linders coming through with the Ferrari tucked up behind. As I say, Petrovelli being shown as the driver, but Eugenio Amos, I'm pretty sure it is behind the wheel, and that gap is virtually nothing at all now as they come up towards the line. Slippery surface flag out there. I think the drivers are well aware of just how bad the conditions are, but down towards the first chicane, very difficult for the quick cars this to try and work their way through traffic. And Eugenio Amos, I think, is in danger of losing a place here, because up the inside goes Ludovic Badet, and he's gone through, and right with them is Edward Sandstrom. Now this is 5th, 6th, 7th and 8th running together. Brilliant battle developing. BMW, Ferrari and Audi. And Bas Linders is going to have to stick out his elbows here to try and keep at bay Ludovic Badet. He's getting faster and faster as the French driver. He went very, very well in these cars last year, running for Jérôme Policon's Sofrev team and the French Formula Renault and then Formula Renault Euro Cup racer. Very quick in French GT before he came to the Blancpain series. Is the one to watch now. He's on the back of the BMW, and look at Edward Sandstrom as well. 8th, number 2 in the Audi, hunting for a way to get past the number 57 Ferrari, just ahead of him as they work their way now up towards the Lesmo curves. The Vita 4-1 Team Italy Ferrari under pressure. Edward Sandstrom trying to have a go, but in fact, now the two Ferraris getting themselves together. Linders escapes and gets past Robert Hissam in traffic then in the Audi, and that leaves the two Ferraris nose to tail. As off has gone Godfrey Jones, starting his career in rallying with his brother David, and almost getting back to his roots there. Threads his way back towards the tarmac. Jones brothers in their late 50s, great enthusiasts, very, very quick drivers, former British GT champions. Mercedes losing a bit of ground. So Ludovic Badet ahead of Eugenio Amos then now, so we've had that change for 6th place. Change for 5th is imminent though, isn't it? Because Bas Linders is under pressure, and Edward Sandstrom applying loads of pressure now to the sideways Ferrari of Eugenio Amos. And a drive-through penalty is being applied for the David Touchemont, Eric Dermont, Antoine Leclerc Porsche for overtaking under yellows. The car's quite a long way down the order anyway, but it will be given the drive-through penalty as a result of overtaking under yellow flags. 31st is where the car is. Eric Dermont currently at the wheel. Sandstrom makes his move, and he's going to go through, isn't he? Coming out of the Parabolica now over the line. Stefano Ortelli looking on there to see how both the Audis are doing. Pretty well is the answer, because number 2 has just gained a place and has gone 7th. And number 1, his car, is there in 2nd place and still very competitive indeed. Is Bas Linders going to lose another place here, because as they dive down towards the chicane, Audi goes up alongside? Yes, indeed. Edward Sandstrom goes through. Big round of applause from the Belgian Audi club, Team WRT, for that one. So 2 places gained in a straight. The order is Marston ahead of Haase, ahead of Wouters. 4th is Rigon. Then it's all changed, because up to 5th place now goes Badet, up to 6th goes Edward Sandstrom, and down to 7th is Bas Linders. The BMW, remember, a few laps ago was looking strong and was coming into its own. Now it has been dumped back down the field. Not great news at all for the Belgian team. They weren't expecting miracles here because of the relative lack of pace of that car, but even so, frustration that they're not going any better. The white Ferrari just being negotiated, Howard Blanc at the wheel of it, and there being boxed in a little bit. Number 20, Ludovic Badet, is that going to cost him ground as a consequence? Let's see, he's still trying to work his way through traffic. Tapping the tail from Edward Sandstrom there, Audi clips the back of the Ferrari. Heart in mouth this for the teams watching on. They're trying to work their way through traffic and maintain traction and see something with all the spray being kicked up. It is very, very difficult indeed, but it's wonderful racing this. Currently on lap number 41, an hour and 17 minutes of the race to go here at Monza, the opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series for 2012. And still traffic gets in the way as they come down towards the chicane. Edward Sandstrom going very strongly indeed now. He's on the back of Ludovic Badet's Ferrari, run by the Sofrev team. Down to the Parabolica they come. And that gives you a real indication of how much water is still on the road and how bad the conditions are. Very bright headlights, cars unrecognisable in the gloom, and drivers having to be so brave to do anything like overtake. To the inside of the traffic goes the Ferrari. Badet tiptoes his way through. Now Edward Sandstrom last time, of course, was very, very good out of the Parabolica up over the start and finish line. Can he do it again now? The car's squirming as they try and get some grip as the power goes down, but the Audi looking the more stable of the two. Over the line they come then. This battle powers its way down towards turn one for 5th and 6th places. Spot the headlights. The ones that are going to be overlapping is the pair to look for, because the Audi lines up to the inside, and this is Edward Sandstrom about to make his move if he can do it. For 5th place, he brakes as late as he can, and he's done it. Makes the move stick, and that was very, very good indeed. Got the car slowed down in time for the corner, works his way now through the chicane, and so the number 2 Audi up to 5th. Number 20 Ferrari slips a place, and Bas Linders is behind them in 7th. There, 8th is the Vita 4-1 Team Italy Ferrari. Giacomo Petrobelli having done the first stint. You've got Eugenio Amos, and as the 3rd driver in the car, another man who's well worth watching, Alessandro Bonaccini, who's gone well in the Porsche Carrera Cup Italy, but I suspect may not be as quick as the other 2 drivers. So Sandstrom up to 5th. Now can he pull away from the Ferrari? Seemingly he's going to try, but he's going to be able to do it. He's edging away, isn't he now? Look, coming up towards the first of the 2 Lesmo corners. Yes, I think the Audi is now going to shake off the Ferrari as they work their way up towards the completion here of lap 42. Now, last time around, Xavier Marsan really pushing on to try and pull away from the number 1 Audi in 2nd place of Christopher Haase. Koen Wouters still being caught by Davide Rigon. So that gap for 3rd and 4th places, traffic allowing, is coming down. And now, as we see, getting very, very close to disaster there, United Autosports McLaren versus one of the Audis run by Santilot Racing. That's the car that Greg Gilbert started, David Halliday taking over. Jerome Demey, the 3rd driver of the car, and 23, which is the surviving United Autosports McLaren, is the one that Mark Blundell shares with Zach Brown. Mark Patterson having done the first stint. And of course, it's the surviving car for that team, having lost Matt Bell's sister McLaren a little earlier. Number 9 also now working its way up the order. And number 9, which is the Michael Wainwright Rob Bell, brother of Matt McLaren, starting to do better lap times, of course, now that Rob Bell, McLaren factory driver, is behind the wheel. But it's a shame that because the car is still in its infancy, we're not really seeing the best of Rob Bell this weekend. At the moment, he's way back in 44th place, although remember that Mike Wainwright had a couple of spins early on. 23, the United Autosports McLaren we just caught a glimpse of, still being shown as being Mark Patterson, who did the first stint, so transponder in the wrong place. And more contact, and that Ferrari gets muscled out of the way. Number 10, it's the other Sofrev Autosport promotion car, and it is Mike Savary at the wheel of it. You can see he's been turned around at the first chicane, drives all over the grass in his efforts to get back onto the track. Passes the Scuderia Vittoria Ferrari, and also, having not rejoined, Romain Brandello, Georges Cabin, Fabien Tuney's Lamborghini, the car that took class pole position in the Gentleman Trophy. So that's another car that we have lost from the race after its spin earlier, but not being able to rejoin. Getting a replay of what happened heading down towards the chicane, and Mike Savary turned in and discovered that the number 18 Mercedes was already committed to try to make a move up on the inside. team being driven by Brett Curtis at the moment. And taken that car over after the first round of pit stops from Sean Edwards, winner of this year's Dubai 24 Hours. The car went well in Sean's hands. Now there, 35 is a car that shouldn't be ignored because the Nissan GTR GT3 goes pretty well in the wet, as we discovered at Alton Park a week ago. It's up into 16th place with young Jan Mardenborough at the wheel and going very, very strongly indeed. One to look for. So will also be Stefan Ortelli when he gets behind the wheel of his Audi. Let's hear from him.
Stefan, considering you came into this weekend with instability issues, Audi is certainly on form on track today.
I think the instability is for everybody, I guess. Now, I'm talking about the cars for us. Of course, it's difficult here in Monza, but it was a lot more difficult in a dry condition, just because we're not so quick in a straight line. But it seems to be much easier in the rain, except the condition is really, really bad for everybody. So we have to survive, I guess. And if we can score a podium, it's going to be a very good result because it's not optimum there. The second car in the team looks really, really good. You know, they came back from the 30 something to position 5 right now. So if we can keep these two cars inside, it's going to be okay, I hope.
Thank you.
Well, there is number one, Stefan Ortelli's Audi, still being hustled on by Christopher Haase, and it's not going to be long, I think, before Stefan Ortelli gets into the car. The gap's still hovering around this 12-second mark. So Mark Henrici versus Stefan Ortelli for the last hour of the race is going to be a very competitive battle, that's for sure. 37 BMW bouncing its way over the curbs. The car of Simon Canap, he was the start driver. And it's another one that's trying to work its way into contention. Currently in 20th place now, number 37 BMW, a car from the Pro-Am class with Jochen Haberts at the wheel. Simon Canap having done a pretty good job in his stint. Now Davide Rigon is in 3rd place. He's finally caught and indeed passed Koen Wouters, and he's lapping quicker than the 2 race leaders. So can Davide Rigon put this car into contention before Daniel Zampieri, who put it on pole position, gets into the last stint? Let's see what the gaps are when they come across the line this time. Also, a quick look down the order is important to find out where Hans-Guido Riegel is for Richard Westbrook's chances for the last stint. But I'm afraid to say that car is 14th, the Haribo Porsche. Maybe that's just too far down the order, because Richard's going to be up against some pretty quick drivers himself. 13 Koen Wouters then comes over the line. The gap between Xavier Marson and Christopher Haase now down, in fact, to 11.6 seconds. Davide Rigon is a further 13 seconds back, and that last lap was again quicker than the 2 ahead of him. So 71 Ferrari should certainly not be overlooked here. Davide Rigon going great guns. Now for 4th place, Koen Wouters, there he is, second of those 2 cars in the Mercedes, is being caught by the charging Audi of Edward Sandstrom. I wonder if Audi can get a 1-2 out of this. And that car is becoming increasingly strong as the race wears on. 83 is in the pit lane. Olivier Pla having done the first stint, and the middle stint, although it never confirmed it on the screen, was Eric Clement. So now the team boss, Philippe Gache, will get behind the wheel. 71 Davide Rigon working his way out of the chicane. Now, number 2, Edward Sandstrom, doing a bit like he did at Spa, taking a car from a dreadful grid position up to a good result. There it was 49th to 2nd. Here, the car started 38th on the grid, and Sandstrom is up into 5th place. You're looking at Peter Belshaw in the meantime after an extra pit stop earlier when he was brought back in to change tyres, which should have been done at the stop in which he took over the car from Craig Wilkins. Peter Belshaw new to racing at this level, having been in the British GT Championship with one of the KTM Crossbows last year. Craig Wilkins, having raced in British GT, then moving to Britcar. Aaron Scott will take over for the 3rd stint. Well, the main aim really is to get to the finish here and learn as the weekend goes on. They were down to drive a Viper for the season, but that car was crashed quite heavily by Andy Ruin before the championship got underway. Andy decided to stand down, and Peter Belshaw was brought in, and they also bought one of the Belgian Audi Club WRT team Audis for the season. So they're still learning about racing, not just the car, but at this level as well. And it's been a frustrating weekend with interruptions across sessions, and now a very, very wet race indeed. But as long as they can get to the end and learn, it'll be a result. Now, Koen Wouters versus Edward Sandstrom. 4th and 5th, nose to tail, with a back marker ahead coming out of the Parabolica. And Sandstrom has looked so good here in the past. Look, he virtually glances off the side of the Mercedes, charges through on the inside. Into the pit lane comes the Merc, and the Audi just storms through, up into 4th place. Edward Sandstrom doing a great job in this stint, working his way up the order. Now Koen Wouters comes in, and although Carl Wendlinger was initially nominated as the start driver, it looks like they're going to put him in to the end as the Mercedes heads down the pit road. And Edward Sandstrom, former Dubai 24-hour winner, now laps Peter Belshaw, gets through at the chicane. Sandstrom, who came from karting through the Renault 5 Cup, Formula Ford he's done, Radical he has raced, touring cars he's raced, Formula Renault 3.5 he was quick in, and the Scandinavian Carrera Cup champion going back to 2007. So Sandstrom proving why he is so good, and proper racer, isn't he? Goes for a gap, makes it stick, and that car now coming up to 4th place. So an Audi 1-2 could be on the cards here, couldn't it, for the Belgian Audi Club team. Peter Belshaw misses out the second chicane as he runs out of road, skips over the curb, back onto the track now. In danger of getting in the way there at 57, the Petrobelli Amos Bonaccini Ferrari, as the number 13 Mercedes completes its pit stop. And the car's up now, slides its way back towards the fast lane of the pits and then to rejoin. Let's see how many places the car will lose as a consequence of that. It's on track now, blasting its way down towards the first chicane. Peter Belshaw hops out of the way there. The Vita 4-1 Team Italy Ferrari goes by. Number 3, Bas Linders then down in 8th place. A bit frustrated, I think, because of course he gained ground a little earlier. Now the car has dropped away again. So even in the wet, the performance disadvantage the BMWs face really being negated. We've got an hour and 6 minutes of this opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series from Monza still to run. And if it's still anybody's race, a lot can yet happen in the remaining laps of this. Well, lap 47 at the moment. Bas Linders turns his way out of the Parabolica. Now, he's not going to get ahead, I don't think, of the 13 Mercedes. Not without a real battle. What can Maxime Martin do in the last stint in that car? Xavier Martin, meantime, continues to lead the way, 11.6 seconds ahead of Christopher Haase. There's Edward Sandstrom charging his way down towards the first chicane. He's 4th, he's chasing after Davide Rigon, and his last lap was a 10th quicker, so I don't think he's going to get there before the next round of pit stops, but the car is certainly better placed now than it has been since the race got underway. Another pit stop in the Gentleman Trophy, 73, the Andreassi Palladino Caccia Ferrari. I've got 74 Porsche just rejoining. Dylan Daedala having given over there to Paul van Splinteren, who elected to do the last stint. And 52 Louis Maciel still pressing on, another of the quick drivers, indeed reigning champion in the Pro-Am Cup. 21st overall, that car you saw, the predominantly black with the Italian tricolor liveried Ferrari, run by AF Corsa. There's the race leader. So Xavier Martin working his way into the Variante Ascari for the 47th time, as Frank Kechler has brought the Vita 4-1 BMW into the pits. And it should now be Jelmer Berman to bring the car through to the finish. Jelmer having joined the team for the GT1 World Championship and also being parachuted into the car for this weekend as well. The team ushering photographers out of the way so the car can make a quick exit from the stop. Refueling goes on, driver change, then we'll put new tyres on it. Now, how much longer before Xavier Martin brings the leading pro-speed Porsche into the pit lane to give way to Mark Henrici? Is it going to be this time the pro-speed competition team run by Rudy Penders and Luc Gorres? 66 BMW completes its pit stop. Another set of Watts goes on, another set of Michelins, and then the car can be dropped down and rejoin the race. A maximum of 6 team members on each car at each pit stop, plus the so-called dead man on the fuel ring there. Make sure that there's no drama with the fuel being applied to the car. Use more than those 6 people and a penalty heads your way. But the Vita 4-1 team, very experienced, having run in Blancpain last year, of course, in addition to the successes the team has had either as Vita 4-1 or Vitaphone, its previous title in the FIA GT1 and its predecessor championships, with many, many titles to its name, particularly for player manager Mikael Bartels, who we saw on occasion in this championship last year. And of course, his regular co-driver of years past, Andrea Bertolini, will be in 52 Ferrari for the last stint, and that's going to be another car from the Pro-Am class, currently in the hands of Louis Machiels, that finds another turn of speed in the last few laps. So Xavier Marson, with perhaps another 3.5 minutes of his stint to go before they put Mark Henrici in, round about the hour mark, lapping traffic. He spent most of the race working his way past back markers. He threads his way past the McLaren there, heading up towards the chicane. Now there, 8, Hans-Guido Riegel, falling down the order. The car losing ground, but it's not long before Richard Westbrook will get into it. Indeed, this time around, so that's why he was being a bit careful with traffic making its way past. He wanted to make sure he could cut across the road and head for the pit lane. So in this time is Hans-Guido Riegel, and Richard Westbrook will take the car over. How far up the order can he drag it? We know it's going to be a quick car. He's got a lot of places to try to make up, but Richard Westbrook will be up for the job in hand, that's for sure. Quite nonchalantly saunters across the pit lane, helps Hans-Guido Riegel to get out of the car. The fuel goes in, Richard will get in, strap himself in, and they'll change the tyres. Then let's just see what he can do. The car is going to fly, that's for sure, with one of the real Porsche stars behind the wheel of it. New set of tyres brought out onto the pit lane. There's the leading Pro Speed car then, with the sister car behind. It's fallen away in that middle stint. We're on lap 49 then, and almost into the last hour of the race. Xavier Marson working his way through the chicane. As I said earlier on, Porsches and Monza go pretty well in the Blancpain Endurance Series. Last year it was the Autolando Sport car that was victorious in a very different sort of race, although amazingly, given the conditions and the size of the entry, ignore that long safety car period at the start, which was not because of a crash, but because of the weather. We've not had one since. I think a lot of people were expecting far more mayhem, far more damage than we've actually had. Now, how is Christopher Haase getting on? Gap down again a little bit that last lap through, so he's still pushing hard. But I think it's going to be really the fight between Henrici and Ortelli into the last stint. Right, Richard Westbrook's ready to go. So he blasts now down the pit lane. And we've also just had Bas Leinders come in to give way number 3 BMW to Maxime Martin. So that's another car that's going to be one to watch in the last stint. Fantastic noise, that BMW, especially when it's given lots of welly like that. So down the pit lane goes the young Belgian driver, and when he goes across the timing line next lap through, we'll get an idea of his real place in the race. Of course, they come across the timing line at pit in, and then they make the pit stop. So when they rejoin, they're a lot further down than the graphic shows you, as the Mark VDS Racing team then, with the sister car having pitted. Now, Henri Moser, who was due to start, is being shown as being in the car now. I think it should be Mike Hesemans from what the team said pre-race. Mike Hesemans joining the team. It'll be interesting to see how far he can climb up the order in number 4. Xavier Marson, meantime, continues to lead the way. Davide Rigon has just pitted from 3rd place to give way now to the man that put the car on pole position, Daniel Zampieri. And Xavier Marson trying, as we are now into the last hour, to hand the car over to Mark Henrici with as big a gap as is possible. Down he comes through the chicane. There down the pit road is number 14, which Marius Richkes was most recently behind the wheel of, having taken over from Dennis Retterer. And it should be Raf van Toor who will do the last stint. He will go up against, therefore, his son Lawrence, who will be in number 2 Audi for the last stint. Xavier Marson then on this, the 50th lap of the race. Pulled away last time from Christopher Haase. And the Pro Speed Porsche working its way down towards the Variante Ascari. Up into 3rd place now has come Edward Sandstrom, staying out in the Audi, up from 38th on the grid. So I'm still convincing myself, if nobody else, that we could get an Audi 1-2. The way that those cars now are going, far better in the race than was seen in qualifying, particularly number 2. A great job being done, not just by Sandstrom, to be fair, but also by Marco Bononomi in his slightly shortened first stint, shortened in terms of proper racing laps that he could do. Ludovic Badet then 5th, ahead of Eugenio Amos. And Tommaso Maino, who will give way to Andrea Invernizzi in number 64 Ferrari. That's going to be another car to climb back into the picture. Does Xavier Marson pit this time then? Yes, he does, by the look of it, because Marc Henrici there is ready, poised, and as the Porsche comes out of the Parabolica, it takes a tighter line. That means it's heading for pit in, and so at the end of lap 50, the car comes in with just over 58 minutes to go. Marc Henrici will be installed behind the wheel to bring it home. So Henrici versus Ortelli. Now, when does number 1 Audi come in? Would it be this time? Are they going to be in sequence together? Porsche in, team goes to work. Out hops Xavier Marson, in gets Marc Henrici. And there is number 2, Edward Sandstrom. Number 1 goes by, so neither of them come in this time. In other words, it's going to be an Audi 1-2 on the track, but they've yet to make the pit stop. So what we need to see is when those cars come in, are they going to be staggered in terms of laps, or will they bring them in at the same time? Staggering makes more sense, but can they rejoin ahead of the Porsche? So now, pressure is on for number 1, Christopher Haase, to do some qualifying tight laps in order to try and get himself either into the lead for the next round of stops, in other words, to rejoin in the lead, or indeed to at least reduce the gap to the 75 Porsche. So as I say, he's got to go now, like a qualifying lap, and either narrow the gap or indeed get himself ahead on corrected time. 75 is dropped down, so the car loses the lead while it's in the pits like this. Marc Henrici fires it up and away he goes. But will the Audis have done enough to stay ahead when we get their final pit stop? Got news of another car in the gravel, which is the Brett Curtis, Sean Edwards, Steve Jans Mercedes. So that is being pulled hopefully out of the gravel. That's why under the clock you've got a yellow to say that there's a yellow flag in one of the sectors, in the middle sector of the lap. And so now that we're into this last stint of the race, so places are going to shuffle around. Marc Henrici then in number 75 comes through the first chicane. Accelerates down towards the Curva di Biassono, and as he does so, where are the Audis, and indeed when are they going to pit? Well, here they come. The gap between them, of course, has been whittled away by the charging Sandstrom. Christopher Haase has been doing his best to catch number 75, the leading Porsche, but while he's been doing so, Edward Sandstrom, who's just doing a superb hour's worth of racing around Monza, has brought the gap right down between the two of them. So another lap ticked off for Christopher Haase. He will carry on, but it looks like number 2 is expected in. So does Edward Sandstrom come in this time? They peer, they wait. Yes, he does. He's got that tighter line, look, coming out of the Parabolica. Comes in now, gets the car slowed down for the pit lane speed limit. The 60k mark. Over the white line he comes. So Edward Sandstrom pits from 3rd after a really impressive stint, got to be said. And to sprint around the car, and hopping into it will be Laurens Vanthoor for the last stint, winner in GT1 at Nogaro. So at the moment, the race order is number 1, Christopher Haase, ahead of number 20, Ludovic Badet. Where does the 75 Porsche feed in at the end of the lap? Number 71, which is Daniel Zampieri at the wheel, 14th he is, having taken over the car, 7th in his class, and just working his way there past the Mercedes, which now has Raf Vanthoor at the wheel. And now, having put the fuel and the new driver into number 2, time to change the tyres. What have we got left in terms of time? Just under 55 minutes, therefore. And with the Mercedes out of the way, the yellow flag in the sector is withdrawn, so the circuit clear once again. New Michelins go on the Audi. So we'll have a look at the order once this round of pit stops is finished and things start to take shape. Another car that's creeping into the picture for a good overall result is the Ecurie Cos BMW that Joe Twyman has just taken over. Car just outside the top 20 now, as back into the race goes number 2. So down the pit road goes Laurens Vanthoor. So Christopher Haase leading from Ludovic Badet, and the gap coming down in both of the first 2 sectors. Marc Henrici 6th at the end of his outlap, and in fact up into 7th place, a car that is doing exceptionally well now, having had a spin earlier on And I know it's flattened a bit by other pit stops, but Duncan Tappy has got number 12, the ART Grand Prix McLaren, into 7th place. Remarkable effort as the leader pits. Christopher Hasse comes in, and so Stefano Ortelli is going to take over the car. The Frenchman, who has for a number of years lived in Monaco, runs under a monogasque licence, will get into the car. Stefan, former Le Mans winner, won that for Porsche in 1998, won the Spa 24 Hours in what was then NGT, beat the main class of car in 2003 in a very wet race. And so it's going to be this man, Marc Henrici, versus Stefan Ortelli, I think, for the race win, although don't discount the number 2 Audi, because Laurens Vanthoor, who co-drives with Stefan in GT1, is going to be in that battle as well. Can the Audi rejoin before that Porsche gets across the line? Fuel has gone in, now they've got to change tyres. They've got about a third of a lap in which to do it, but then it's quite a long drive back down the pit lane, so I think the Porsche will still keep the advantage. But then we need to see what a flying lap time is like from Stefan Ortelli relative to a Marc Henrici flying lap. And do the sums. Into the Parabolica comes the Porsche. There's the end of lap number 52 for Marc Henrici. The car running in the Pro class, the Pro Cup, as is this Audi, which has got a sticking wheel. Oh dear, this is going to cost them time. And so they've got a problem. They've got a problem. They can't get the wheel off. The new tyre is there, but the old one is stuck. The old wheel is stuck, and they can't get the wheel off. And so that is going to ruin the chances of this Audi for success. Over the line then will go Marc Henrici. He's gone by. Ludovic Badet leads the way now. They're going to try again to get this wheel off, and finally it comes. But that has cost them chunks of time. And a very frustrated Stefan Ortelli. Nothing he can do about it. He's just got to sit there and wait. Well, finally they've done the tyre change. It wasn't finger trouble. It was a stuck wheel. The car is released now. But Stefan Ortelli, if he had any chance at all, I fear it has now gone, unless there's a safety car to bunch them all back up. But we've got this far with that one. The Audi of what is now Laurens Vanthoor, therefore, leaps ahead of its teammate with a much faster pit stop. So Stefan Ortelli not only doesn't get out ahead of the Porsche, which we weren't expecting, he falls way, way down the order, because you've got other quick cars pouring through, including number 3 Maxime Martin's BMW. So we'll need to see at the end of the next lap exactly where the car feeds in. But inevitably, it lost, what, an extra 20 seconds or so. Stefan Ortelli a long, long way now out of contention for a race win. He needs a safety car to get him back into the hunt. It may not be coming for him. A very frustrated Stefan Ortelli. Total contrast, though, number 2, 38th on the grid, and it's leapfrogged its way past this car that just a couple of minutes ago was in contention for a race win. It goes to show how quickly things can change in endurance racing, and even for the top teams as well, because there's a lot of resource behind the Belgian Audi Club squad, Team WRT, but I'm afraid to say, dramas then, stuck wheels, something as outwardly trivial as that, something as simple as that, and it's cost them dear. Now Ludovic Badet in number 20, the Sofrev Ferrari, staying out there, he leads the way, yet to make his last pit stop, and put Jean-Luc Bobelic in the car. Now Jean-Luc Bobelic is not as quick as Ludovic, nor as Patrice Gouillard, so that car not expected to stay at the top. Here comes 75, Marc Henrici. We've got 57 in, the Petrobelli Amos Bonaccini Ferrari that was running second. 64 is yet to pit, that's being shown as third for Andrea Invenizzi to take over. So 75 goes through them. Marc Henrici, the best of those that have made their 2 mandatory pit stops and are therefore good to go to the end. But number 20 Ferrari of Ludovic Badet leads on the road at the moment. Comes into the Variante Ascari, and the real target for this team is to try and win the Pro-Am category. A good overall result would be a real bonus, but it's going to be Jean-Luc Bobelic to take over. Now Edward Sandstrom, having done an excellent job in Audi number 2, has brought it into the hunt. Let's hear from him now.
Edward, that was a mega stint. You put the car in contention. You must be happy with that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was the first time for me in the WRT Audi in rain, and it was wonderful. The car was so good, and the tires worked perfect, and I had some issues with traffic sometimes, but apart from that, I'm so happy. I'm very pleased.
Is that it for the pit stops now? Is it likely you're going to have to go for one more, or can you just stick with the 2?
I definitely hope we can stick with this one and go to the end now. That's the plan for sure.
Thank you.
We've only seen Edward Sandstrom in the Blancpain Endurance Series once before. It was at Spa last year, second overall, second in class with another of those amazing drives. So another excellent job done here. What can Laurens Vanthoor do relative to Marc Henrici? Things are starting to get themselves a little bit more sorted now as we have the last round of pit stops. There are more team managers also being summoned to race control. Drive-through penalty for Steve Jans for contact with number 10. Remember, that was what we saw at the first chicane. And there, off the road, goes Stefano Ortelli. So he's well wound up, isn't he, with this, but trying a bit too hard as he tries to get himself past the number 7 Porsche, which for the last stint has got Deno Mikulashko at the wheel of it. Stefano Crotti having done the middle stint, Miro Konopka having started in that car. Miro Konopka, old sweat from the FIA GT Championship of years past, with the familiar colours of ARC Bratislava adorning the car. Right, Stefano Ortelli then tries to wriggle away by. Blue flag waved, and the Porsche being rather unhelpful here. There's not a battle for position. The Porsche is being lapped, and therefore Mikulashko really needs to get out of the way. And the way that he sits in the middle of the road, that's defending, isn't it? That's not helping a quicker car to lap him. So it's understandable here that Ortelli's getting a bit ratty. Just over 3/4 of an hour remains. Ludovic Badet leading on track from Tommaso Maino. They've yet to pit. Henner Ricci goes through, now running third, and Carl Wendlinger is next on corrected time because you've got Duncan Tappy in the pit lane. Maxime Martin, with a very, very good pit stop, is ahead of Laurens Vanthoor. But if you put them in a straight fight anyway, I think it's fair to say that Maxime is quicker than Laurens, more experienced in GT terms. And over the curbs goes Laurens Vanthoor, and that means that 41 has to take evasive action. The lapped car from the Gentleman Trophy, Pierre Hershey, bouncing over the curb to get out of the way. But Maxime Martin now behind the wheel of number 3, up ahead, as you can see, of the number 2 Audi. Straight away then, Laurens Vanthoor kind of negating some of Edward Sandsom's good work by going backwards a place. What can Maxime Martin do about those ahead of him? Next target is Carl Wendlinger in the Mercedes, and he's lapping faster. There is the BMW. Maxime Martin traditionally doing the last stint, always goes well, pushes hard. And it's starting to look a bit, can't say drier, but less wet and less nasty than it was at the start of the race. And Ludovic Badet, who leads on track, is going to do as much of the race that's available to him to negate the time lost when they put the slower Jean-Luc Bobelik in for the last stint. But a class win is what they're after. They are leading the Pro-Am category, whereas the Pro Cup, being led by Marc Henrici, ahead of Carl Wendlinger, ahead of Maxime Martin. Now 13 is Wendlinger, 3 is Maxime Martin, who straight away has done the car's best first and second sectors of the race so far. So it starts with Marcus Palfiller doing a good safe job. It gets quicker with Bas Linders behind the wheel, and then they release the secret weapon for the last stint in Maxime Martin, and the car starts to fly. He's currently running in 5th place, and it's going to get better before the end. The number 4 BMW, Mike Hesmans at the wheel, down in 16th place. But that too can gain ground before the end. In fact, it's about to gain a place because Godfrey Jones' Mercedes, that was 15th, has now pitted. So it's another place to be gained by Mike Hesmans in a car that started way, way back on the grid after Bert Longin's accident at the start of qualifying yesterday. So just a little over 45 minutes of the race to go. And Stefano Ortelli currently running in 10th place. What can he do in terms of gaining ground from there? All of the time lost with that sticking wheel is what has taken the chance of a race win away from them. Now there's Mike Hesmans, who last year we saw drive a Mercedes in the Spa 24 Hours, and he crashed, remember, did quite a bit of damage to it. And now with the Mark VDS Racing Team BMW, and in the midst of all of this, look, is the leader being very, very badly held up, isn't he? Mike Hesmans is about to try and unlap himself by getting ahead of the Porsche. And he does, and that's significant, isn't it? Because if the leading Porsche can't go as quickly as a lapped car, possibly delayed by traffic, then there's a very good chance it's going to be caught by other cars before the end. Marc Henrici last time lapping in the 2 minute 8s, those behind 2 minutes 4s, 2 minutes 5. So it is being caught. Can he assert himself again and put a lap back on Mike Hesmans here as they come down to the Variante Ascari? No, he can't. Again, they're being held up by the 33 Porsche, which has done quite a lot of holding up in this race so far. We've seen it before getting in the way, and it is doing so once more, not really helping the quicker cars around. Teams look on in the garages, see what's going out on track. Blue flag visibly shown to the slower cars. Well, Mike Hesmans technically is a slower car, but he's not going to get out of the way of the overall leader. He wants to try and stay on the lead lap, because that might help him in the long run. 33, the uncooperative Porsche, is Antoine Leclerc, who has raced at the front of GT races, so he should know what he's doing. Yes, he wants to try and reduce the time lost by being lapped, but even so, he's still got to get out of the way, and not doing a very good job about it. We have more drive-through penalties being applied for some of the cars within the Gentleman Trophy. Kessel Racing's Ferrari 430 being given a drive-through for starting with external help, and number 91, the Oriental McLaren, was fueled with the engine running. That also, therefore, is going to be given a drive-through penalty. We've just seen people going up the escape road, and as the number 1 Audi turns down towards the Parabolica, it is currently a lap behind the leading car on track, because there, Ludovic Badet, who leads on the road, is ahead of the Audi, therefore he's a lap up, and he's going to pit this time. So at the end of lap 57, Ludovic Badet gives way to Jean-Luc Bobelic, and the French former Renault Clio V6 front runner will take over the Software Ferrari. The distinctive shape of Jean-Luc Bobelic compared to the rather more racing driver-like frame of Ludovic Badet that gets out, and Jean-Luc Bobelic is squeezed into the car. But his main task now is to stay ahead of, when 64 pits, Andrea Invernizzi, who will do the last stint replacing Tommaso Maino. So Marc Henrici will be on corrected time as the leader, because it's the leading car, his Porsche, that's done 2 stops. He's lapping in the 2-minute 9s, and Carl Wendlinger is catching him, and he's lapping much, much quicker now in the 2-minute 6 bracket. Now, the gap between them is 13.8 seconds, and it's coming down. So Anthony Kumpen's first good stint, Koen Wouters keeping out of trouble in the middle stint. Now Carl Wendlinger, former Grand Prix racer, of course, and former GT champion in Orica Vipers, never mind his success in Maseratis and Aston Martins, is coming into the picture. The Mercedes could yet be another of these potential winners, of which there are so many. More flashing of the lights as towards us comes the Marc VDS Racing BMW. Maxime Martin still pushing on, he's lapping quicker than Wendlinger, and Wendlinger is catching Henrici. So the BMW storms out of the Parabolica. That car is 1.3 seconds back on the Mercedes, catching and then passing through the Parabolica. So Carl Wendlinger, having been reeled in, now slips behind the BMW as they come over the line. And this lap through, with cars ahead pitting, the order corrects itself. So Marc Henrici becomes the leader, Maxime Martin up to second. Carl Wendlinger, having been mugged at the Parabolica, slips back into 3rd place. The BMW, though, just looking so different from when you kind of ignored it in the first stint, where Marcus Paltler was doing a rather more modest job. But remember how Bas Linders went at the start of his stint, and then the car faded a little bit. Hopefully Maxime Martin can carry on like this. Now, there is the race leader, being held up a little bit by a back marker, namely a Marc VDS Racing BMW. Now, I'm not suggesting that they're going to use team tactics here, but if Mike Hazelmans were to get in the way over the 75 Porsche and give it a couple of slow laps, it wouldn't half help the number 3 car that's trying to catch it, would it? Behind is Richard Westbrook, look, who is a lap down, but in 15th place. His next target is Mike Hazelman's BMW up the road. If Richard Westbrook can get past Marc Henrici, of course, he'll be back on the lead lap. And the Porsche still charging on, lapping in the 2-minute 7s, Henrici lapping in the 2-minute 8s. So Marc, in a way, doing what he's needed here to do. In other words, just keep out of trouble and bring the car home. But he's got to be careful. He is certainly being caught by Maxime Martin, who is very nearly 3 seconds a lap faster. So the Porsche leading the way on borrowed time, and we've had a spinning Ferrari look in the background. That's coming out of the Variante Ascari. And which one is that has rotated? Might be the M-Tech car. It is the M-Tech Ferrari. Duncan Cameron and Matt Griffin. And it was 12th. We didn't really see much of Matt doing his usual heroics, but Duncan Cameron has got into it, and he's had a spin, I'm afraid, from 12th. And he gets going again, albeit with time lost. Right, Marc Henrici coming up over the line. Just under 40 minutes of the race to go. He'll come through now with Richard Westbrook right up behind him. And Marc Henrici is not slow, but Richard Westbrook is just in danger of storming past the race leader here, flashing his lights to say, come on, I'm quicker than you, get out of the way, even though the car being flashed at is the one that leads the race. Bit of a wobble under braking from Mike Hazelmans, just up ahead of them. Right, Maxime Martin goes through. The gap is 9 seconds between Henrici and Martin. Marc VDS Racing here, despite not going into the race with high hopes, have a very good chance of winning now, because you've got Laurens Vanthoor in the Audi in 4th and not really featuring for the moment. Stefan Ortelli is up into 8th place, lapping quickly. Could have been a different story, but for the stuck wheel. So there's Marc Henrici. He's stuck in traffic because he's got Hesemans ahead in the car that's 13th. He's got the 14th place Porsche of Richard Westbrook behind and wanting to come by, and he's being caught by Maxime Martin. They've gone through sector 1. In fact, Maxime Martin in traffic this time, just a little bit delayed. Carl Wendlinger, intriguingly, is staying with the BMW. He's not letting him get away. The Nissan that Jan Mardenborough did great things with, now in the hands of Chris Ward going through. There's Mike Hesemans. Chris Ward is 12th, the reigning GT4 champion. There's Mike Hesemans then, catching 13th he's become, Richard Westbrook 14th, but Richard is still the first of the lapped cars here, stuck behind 75, the leading Porsche. So can he find a way by? Henrici defending, coming up towards the Variante Ascari. Richard Westbrook then, he wants as many cars between him and the opposition as he can. Does Marc Henrici, Richard Westbrook being one of those back markers. He'd like to keep him behind rather than let him go, but I think Richard's going to force the issue sooner or later, because there's the car that's chasing after the leader, Maxime Martin, and he's quicker in the middle sector by over a second. Marc Henrici being careful, I think, here. He's not exactly slow, but he is being cautious, having taken over the car from Xavier Marson, who brought it in the lead. We can hear from Xavier now, down in the pit lane.
Xavier, you were certainly on the pace when you were in the Porsche. Is the Porsche losing the pace now on track?
Well, I don't think it's losing any pace. Marc's in the car now. I think Martin is one of the quickest drivers around with the BMW and the VDS, and he's pushing quite hard. So it'll be a tight finish. So we hope we cross our fingers.
Thank you.
Well, the gap is down to 6.8 seconds. Of course, Henrici busy trying to defend from Richard Westbrook, who you can see has unlapped himself now. And behind them also is Gregoire de Moustier in the McLaren that he's taken over again from Duncan Tappy. So Marc Henrici is being passed by cars unlapping themselves. So yes, Maxime Martin is one of the quickest drivers. Xavier Martin is right to say that, but Marc Henrici is not really doing the lap times they need from him. So he's not doing a bad job, but he's not fast enough at the moment, and it's going to be 3 laps, maybe 4, before he's got Maxime Martin right up with him. Can he defend? But certainly at the moment, you put your money on the BMW. There is Maxime Martin. He's doing a superb job, and he's brought the car very much into contention. He's 6 seconds back. He's quicker by a full second, give or take, in the first sector alone. So the gap is just coming down and down and down, and with over half an hour to go, he's going to get there, isn't he, before the end, barring a disaster. So Marc Henrici needs to up his pace here. The Pro Speed team needs to be on the radio to him, saying, go faster, go faster. Yes, he's got all these back markers around him, but really, he should be pulling away from them. They are, in theory, slower cars. That's why they're lapped. What is happening is they're unlapping themselves. Now let's hear from Bas Leinders, because he did the middle stint in number 3, and his car could yet be a race winner.
As Max is certainly putting the pressure on, but can he bring it home?
Well, it's going to be a difficult one, but it's still long, still more than half an hour. But Max will push till the end, that's for sure. Yeah, we cross our fingers. Maybe somebody will still come back, depending if the track dries up more. Maybe then the use of the tire will be higher. We will see how we can manage it.
How has the BMW been with the use of the fuel here?
Yeah, fuel is okay, so we should make it till the end. Of course, everybody can with the weather, so we use less fuel. So should be okay. I'm very surprised that we are in the position we are in now, because on the straight line, even in the rain, I got passed on the straight by the Ferraris, even the Audis, so hopefully we can bring it home.
Thank you.
And then behind that car, number 13, Carl Wendlinger, and he is still pushing hard as well. But Laurens Vanthoor, now that he's into a rhythm, is starting to look a bit more impressive, because he is catching Carl Wendlinger. And then you've got the pole position man, Daniel Zampieri, number 71, and he is going quicker than Laurens Vanthoor, who is quicker than Wendlinger, and they're all quicker than Marc Henrici. So it's not just a case of Marc Henrici in danger of losing the lead before the end. He could well get bumped out of the top 3 looking at his pace. He just needs to go faster. It's easier said than done, I know, but Marc is not an inexperienced driver. But now, not just does the lead look very vulnerable, but a podium finish is looking a little bit unlikely. That's the battle for 3rd and 4th places. Carl Wendlinger versus Laurens Vanthoor. Carl, who looked okay at the start of the stint in that car, but you can see, having lost out to Maxime Martin, he's almost powerless to do anything about the Audi that dives to the inside and goes through, heading up towards the Lesmo curves. Through on the inside, and there's a car off ahead. It's a BMW, it's not the Mark VDS car. In fact, that's the Den Boer Lemre Van Hooydonk BMW. It rattles its way over the curb It was a lap down anyway, that car, not pitching for an overall place. But the Mercedes of Carl Wendlinger does indeed lose third to Laurens Vanthoor, and can't fight back either, can it? Straight away, it seems to lose a little bit more pace. The Jones brothers Mercedes comes out of the Variante Ascari. There is Marc Henrici, and look how much closer Maxime Martin is. The gap continuing to come down and down and down. 8 seconds to 6 seconds to 3.4 last time. Next lap through, Maxime Martin could well be in the lead. Now, how's Richard Westbrook getting on now that he's unlapped himself? He's trying to get himself up past Chris Ward. Mike Hesselmans has got past the Nissan. There's Marc Henrici. Maxime Martin might even be able to challenge by the end of the lap. The Porsche just not responding at all. Marc Henrici, yes, I know he's got traffic to worry about, but he's powerless to do anything about the BMW reeling him in. The lap times, 2 minutes 8 from the Porsche, 2 minutes 4 from the BMW. They're nose to tail as they go over the timing line now. The gap is nothing at all between the pair of them, 0.273 of a second, that's all. Where does Maxime Martin make his move? He's got to be patient about this. To be fair, Marc Henrici being held up pretty badly in traffic this time, down towards the chicane, and the lead changes because Maxime Martin goes for the inside. Big round of applause from the Marc VDS Racing team, and Maxime Martin has done it. As Marc Henrici was busy being held up by Giuseppe Ciro and concentrating on that, he left the door wide open, and Maxime Martin goes thundering up the inside. The BMW goes through into the lead. Fantastic stuff, this. Straight away, he's pulling clear. So Marc Henrici loses the lead. How many more places will he lose? And it really does undo the good work, doesn't it, of Mark Goossens from the first stint. Xavier Marson kept the car in the lead throughout the middle hour, and Marc Henrici just not being able to respond. The times he's doing in that car, nowhere near what the BMW is doing, and the BM, all weekend the teams have been saying that the cars just are not quick enough in a straight line. Best Linders looking on, Bert Langevin monitoring the progress of his car up into 12th place now. So there's 75, Marc Henrici down now in second place, but in danger of losing a whole heap of spots before the very end. We've got 32 minutes remaining here at Monza, a rain-affected opener to the Blancpain Endurance Series. And despite people hurling themselves off the road early on, apart from a lengthy safety car period to start the race because of the bad weather, we haven't had one because of incidents since. Maxime Martin leads the way then, pulling away in sector 1, pulling away in sector 2. Marc Henrici in second place, and then it is this car chasing after him, Laurens Vanthoor, who was fractionally slower in the first sector and indeed in the second sector. So let's see what he can do in the last one. He needs a bit of clear running, really, a bit of clear road. Maxime Martin, Marcus Pautala, Bas Linders leading the Pro Cup. The lead of the Pro-Am category is Giacomo Petrobelli, Eugenio Amos and Alessandro Bonaccini. And the Gentleman Trophy for the bronze-graded drivers currently being headed by number 82, the Luc Paillard Gilles Vanelengel Le Soulier, Dodge Viper. Race leaders down towards the chicane. Maxime Martin now getting held up in the traffic. Mike Hesselmans, incidentally, up into 10th place now in the sister car, nearly a lap behind, but gaining ground. And there, look, number 2, Laurens Vanthoor, taking with him Carl Wendlinger as they head down towards the first chicane. And behind them, and catching them, is Daniel Zampieri, the man that was on pole position. Wendlinger's Mercedes growls then up towards the right-hander of the first Les Mode curve. And as he does so, the Audi ahead of him, that of Laurens Vanthoor. They're very evenly matched, these two, in the sectors. I know Vanthoor has been able to find a way past, but he's never really pulled away by anything more than what you can see now, just a couple of lengths. Into the second chicane they go, the Variante della Roggia. And there, 46 Ferrari. Valentino Rossi's car trying to gain ground. Well, ahead is Eugenio Amos in 57, the Petrobelli Bonaccini shared car. And remember that after Rossi gave way to Alessio Salucci, the car got itself involved in a few battles. It's now 25th, but Valentino Rossi is back at the wheel of it. So 7th place, Eugenio Amos, having taken over from Bonaccini, if the transponder is to be believed, and a car leading Pro-Am from now number 20, Jean-Luc Beaubelic. So in other words, we've had that change since Beaubelic got into the car. And Eugenio Amos, a very, very rapid driver indeed. And he, Giacomo Petrobelli and Alessandro Bonaccini working well as a team here, the three of them getting together for the first time and driving for Vita 4-1 Team Italy, this satellite operation, if you like, being operated by Matteo Bobbi. Gaël Le Soulier in the Viper, leading the Gentleman Trophy as he comes over the line. The car shared by Blancpain and Gilles Vannelet. Gilles, a former European GT3 champion. Gaël Lesudier, a former race winner. Indeed, for Morgan at Silverstone in GT3 in the European Championship a few years ago. And the mighty Viper on a slightly drying, brackets less wet, close brackets road. Still going very, very strongly indeed. The car isn't going to pitch for overall honours, but it is in 37th place outright. Jay Twyman there in the Acuriacos BMW, giving a hard time to Stefan Ortelli. Let's just see where the Acuriacos BMW is. 22nd place, in fact, going well. Car running in Pro-Am. 11th in class. The aim was a top 10 finish, so possible in 28 more minutes. The Joneses are in strife, I'm afraid. The number 90 Mercedes has a spin, and that was right in front of the race leader. The car gets going again, thankfully. David Jones at the wheel of it. And the Mercedes not looking like it's got any damage, thankfully, carries on. Maxime Martin able to just dodge round the mighty Merc. So at the second chicane, David Jones has a spin and gets back into the race ahead there of number 2 Audi, Laurens Vanthoor. Now, Mark Henrici's last lap was a 2 minutes 10. Vanthoor, who is chasing after him, a 2 minutes 7. So I still think it is possible, with 27 3/4 minutes on the clock, that the 75 Pro Speed Porsche that has done much of the race leading in this is going to get dumped off the podium. So can Pro Speed hang on to a podium finish? That's the question. It's not looking good, is it? Because you can see the way that the Audi is reeling it in, and Vanthoor is taking with him Carl Wendlinger, who just will not go away. He may have dropped back behind the Belgian Audi Club car of Vanthoor at the most un-Belgian of circuits of Alton Park many, many years ago. Vincent Voss in a champion of Alton race, but he's raced GT cars and touring cars and now turning his attention to running teams. But when he does race, he races well, and he's watching one of his cars third and hunting down second place before the end. Right, Henrici goes through another lap in the 2 minute 10s. Behind him, Laurens Vanthoor another lap in the 2 minute 7s. Henrici just not really responding at all. Now, Richard Westbrook has gained another place. He's 11th now. He's got past Mike Hazemans. And Maxime Martin here, trying to work his way through traffic. Giuseppe Ciro is behind him in the Ferrari. He was in 14th place in 51, which is another of the multitudinous AF Corsa Ferraris that he has taken over now from Dan Brown. There's Laurens Vanthoor. Let's see how he gets on in the first sector against Mark Henrici, but I think Pro Speed going to be very frustrated here that Mark just has not been able to rise to the occasion. You heard Xavier Martin explaining that there's nothing wrong with a Porsche. Maxime Martin was a very quick driver. Well, yes, he is, but others are going much quicker than Mark Henrici as well. There are something like a dozen cars in the leading 15 who are lapping quicker than Mark Henrici, who is in second place. So it's not looking great for him, this, to hang on in there, is it? With still 25 minutes of the race to go. It may have started fairly quietly with that long safety car period for around about half an hour or so. But it's certainly been a lively race ever since that. And with Maxime Martin leading the way, the gap has gone up to 8.9 seconds. On current evidence, that car's not going to be caught. But the real question mark is over what's going on for second and third and fourth and fifth, because you've got quick cars catching the second place Porsche. And it's been not just catching, it has been caught now, hasn't it, that situation? Mark Henrici versus Laurens Vanthoor, nose to tail, as they burst back into view coming up towards the Variante Ascari. Porsche over the curb, Audi steers clear of them, and Laurens Vanthoor still taking Carl Wendlinger with him. Wendlinger possibly being very canny about this, letting Laurens Vanthoor do all the hard work, getting through traffic and catching up to the Porsche, and then Carl Wendlinger is poised, ready to strike, while he's on the tail of the Audi, which is almost there on the back of the Porsche. Down towards the Parabolica they come. End of lap number 64 this. Sorry, lap 65 I should say, and nose to tail, second, third and fourth coming onto the pit straight. Maxime Martin goes through. Another lap in the 2 minute 7s, not as quick as he was doing, but still much quicker than Henrici. 2 minutes 9, and then laps in the 2 minute 7s from those behind. Maxime Martin now trying to work his way past Mike Hazemans, his teammate, to put a lap on him. Mike Hazemans having unlapped himself from Henrici, who is about to now go down one place. Is he? Laurens Vanthoor to the inside? Yes. Laurens Vanthoor stands his ground on the inside. He's gone through, and a very, very big cheer goes up from the Audi team as we have a spinning Ferrari. And that is the number 50 car that has rotated. Jack Gerber back behind the wheel of it. Marco Ciocci having done a good middle stint in the car, and the South African, who, from memory, spun into the gravel here last year, had a spin at the first chicane this year. And the South African then losing more places. So, new second car is the Audi. Won't be long before we've got a new third place, will it? Carl Wendlinger up behind Marc Henrici. And what I was suggesting a little while ago about the car being dumped off the podium altogether is about to happen. The Mercedes goes to the inside, heading up towards the first part of the Lesmo curves. Is it going to work for Carl Wendlinger? Has a look. Sticks to the inside line there. Can't quite get ahead of the Porsche. But look at the way now that Laurens Vanthoor is pulling away. Yes, Henrici's losing time by defending, but the Audi just driving off into the distance. And Pro Speed, I think now, are going to look very grumpy about this. What was a good race for them earlier on, with the lead for about an hour and a half, now looks like they're not going to get on the podium at all. Wendlinger in the Mercedes on the back of Marc Henrici as they come into view again up towards the Variante Ascari. David Jones' Mercedes ahead. That's a lapped car that will be negotiated by them in a moment. The Mercedes then now in a straight line. Can it go booming past the Porsche? Over the curb comes Marc Henrici. A man that drove for Marc VDS last year in FIA GT1 and at the Spa 24 Hours. Well, Marc VDS Racing now having got past his car for the race lead. And now, for third place, Carl Wendlinger tries to get past Marc Henrici coming down towards the Parabolica, to no avail, though. Marc Henrici defending. Former German production touring car champion, former Alfa Romeo 147 champion, going back very nearly 10 years. And as they come past the pits, he's going to lose a place, isn't he? Because now the Mercedes has the grunt in a straight line. It levels with the Porsche. And Marc Henrici, powerless it seems, to stop Carl Wendlinger charging through on the inside. As long as Wendlinger can get the car slowed down in time for the chicane, he should be able to go third. He brakes for the corner, he's got the line for the chicane, and he's done it. Up to third place goes Carl Wendlinger, down to fourth goes Marc Henrici. Straight away, Henrici tries to fight back coming out of the chicane, but I think the Austrian's going to be able to keep him there, isn't he? Keep him at bay, going now up towards the Curva de Biaso. No, yes, he does. So Carl Wendlinger hangs on to third place. Two of them nose to tail then as they come up towards the chicane. So the number 13 Mercedes having gained a place, running in the top three. There is Carl Wendlinger. So the transponder issues they've been having all day, when we were being told he was the start driver and it was shown as Anthony Kumpen, the screen was wrong all the time, and so it's still wrong, because what it tells you is Carl Wendlinger is now Kumpen. I think it was right for Koen Wouters, but it's Kumpen who's done the hard work now to get past Henrici. So the two drivers have always been shown as the wrong one during the course of the race. The Merc getting a bit of a wobble on as it comes out of the second part of the Lesmo curves. So yes, for the first stint when it was being shown as Kumpen on the timing pages, it was Carl Wendlinger who was the nominated start driver. And now again the transponder in the wrong position. So Anthony Kumpen, we can, with an element of confidence now, say has got himself up in a third place. And can he do anything about the number 2 Audi before the very end? At the moment, Laurens Vanthoor lapping quicker, but now that Anthony Kumpen has managed to work his way through traffic, can he get a clear road? Well, not yet. He's got to get past David Jones there, hasn't he? Looking number 90 coming towards us, so you can't yet think about doing much against the Audi, which in the meantime has built a gap. Meantime, Maxime Martin through again. He's now done 67 laps, and he leads by 11.5 seconds, and he's going to be careful in the traffic here. The gap that he's got over Laurens Vanthoor is 11.5 seconds. In fact, last time through, Vanthoor just fractionally quicker. Maxime Martin through the traffic. The 430 Scuderia Ferrari of Kessel Racing about to be negotiated. And it's the traffic really that's flattering the number 2 Audi, because it's the traffic holding up Maxime Martin that's giving him the slightly slower lap times and therefore seeming to help the number 2 Audi get into the hunt. But I don't really think the car is going to be able to make up 11.5 seconds in the remaining 20 minutes. So race order, this car leads number 3 Maxime Martin in the Marc VDS Racing BMW from number 2 Laurens Vanthoor's Audi. Third is number 13, really Anthony Kumpen, after all of that, ahead of number 75 Marc Henrici. And fifth is Daniel Zampieri. Now that's another car that's going to be able, I think, to catch and gain a place before the very end. Now let's go to the pit lane. Anthony Kumpen drives. Instead, we'll hear from Madame Kumpen.
Greta, it's certainly a tense moment in the garage. How is it for you sat here watching Anthony racing?
Oh, I'm very nervous, but I believe very hard in Anthony and in the team, so it's quite okay, but I'm very nervous.
Thank you.
So under 19 minutes remain, and Marc Henrici currently in 4th place. His last lap was a 2 minutes 9. Daniel Zampieri 2 seconds faster, and the gap that he's got to make up is 4.8 seconds. So that's going to happen before the end as well, isn't it? So the 75 Porsche is going to be potentially 5th. It may even drop to 6th because you've got Stefan Ortelli still charging on as well. Now, how far back is Ortelli? He's a further 50 seconds. No, he's not going to do that, is he? But 5th looks like it's going to be where the Pro Speed Porsche finishes in the end. Richard Westbrook's Porsche, in the meantime, you just saw it coming out of the first chicane, is currently in 11th spot, going after the 74 Porsche that's also got a transponder issue because it's been shown as Dylan Deerdale for 2 stints effectively now. So it is either him or Paul van Splinteren, and the car is in 10th place, but Richard Westbrook is hunting it down. There he is, coming into the second chicane. Lars Vanthoor in the meantime trying to work his way through traffic. A little bit slower than Maxime Martin in the first sector. You've got Chris Ward's Nissan there being passed by Anthony Kumpen. Whoops, being given a helping hand in fact, Kumpen. Chris Ward gets the power down of the Nissan. The Mercedes didn't quite respond as expected. The Nissan a lap down now, but is in 14th place. Alex Buncombe started. Jan Mardenborough, the winner of the PlayStation Academy competition, took the middle stint, and Chris Ward brings it home. Chris and Alex, of course, reigning GT4 class champions for Bob Neville's team, RJN Motorsport. And Anthony Kumpen, meantime, is coming back slightly at Laurens Vanthoor. So now that he has worked his way through traffic and has got over his identity crisis of being Carl Wendlinger, Kumpen is going pretty strongly. In the first sector, he's fractionally quicker. In the second sector, he's fractionally quicker. So this Audi, currently in second place, may start to feel a little bit more pressure because it's under 3 seconds between Laurens Vanthoor and Anthony Kumpen in number 13. Good return to GT racing this for Anthony Kumpen, who, if you go back a few years, was one of the mainstays of the FIA GT Championship with his successes with Bert Longchamp and Mike Hesemans in Corvettes. And multiple Bell Car champion as well, turning his way then now into the Parabolica. Can he carry on with this good pace and come back at the Audi? He lost out a little bit in traffic, having been shadowing him for many, many laps. Time, the Mark VDS Racing BMW holds sway now by 16 seconds. So Maxime Martin able to stretch the advantage. The gap second to third, though, Vanthoor to Kumpen is 2.4 seconds. That lap through, the gap is down again. In 4th place, it is 75. Marc Henrici ahead of Daniel Zampieri. And another 2 seconds pulled back pretty much by Zampieri for, well, effectively his 4th place. That's what he's aiming for now. Stefan Ortelli's lap times are also fairly slow, possibly because of traffic. So the number 1 Audi 6th, I think he's going to stay there, but Henrici should indeed drop to 5th any moment, because as he comes up towards the chicane, Daniel Zampieri there, look, he's right on his tail. He had a go on the inside that came to nothing, but with 15 minutes of the race remaining, he should be able to pick him off before the end. They're nose to tail now, and Daniel Zampieri, the man who qualified the car on pole position, hunting for a way past 75. Marc Henrici's Porsche then hangs on currently for 4th place, but you get the feeling he's on borrowed time, don't you? Daniel Zampieri right up behind the Pro Speed Porsche now. And for the Kessel Racing team, Daniel Zampieri trying to make a move as they come now down towards the chicane. Anthony Kumpen goes through, and how's Kumpen getting on in the sectors on this lap? A little bit slower, in fact, than the Audi he's chasing, so he's lost out. Now Marc Henrici being held up in traffic. Nose to tail, 4th and 5th, down towards the Parabolica. Marc Henrici versus Daniel Zampieri, who thinks about the outside line, but he can't really get there because there's a Viper in his way, the car leading the Gentleman Trophy. They're still nose to tail through the corner. Very tight line, though, for the inside there by Daniel Zampieri. Others have taken a wider line, looking for more grip. He takes a tighter inside line. Comes out almost on the tail of Henrici now. Most people have stormed past him in a straight line down towards the first chicane. Is that going to be the case here? They're nose to tail. And trying to get a toe possibly now is Zampieri. Does he go to the outside? He thinks about it. Mark Henrici trying to defend as best he can. They're not quite going to overlap into the braking area, are they? Although to the outside line goes the Ferrari. Mark Henrici just hangs onto the place for fourth, nose to tail, out of the chicane. 13.5 minutes are on the clock. And the Pro Speed Porsche somehow hangs on to fourth place. Mark Henrici now making the car a little bit wider, but he just has not got the speed, seemingly, of those around him. Those that have got past are pulling away, and Zampieri, now that he's stuck behind the Porsche, his lap times have gone up. He just cannot find a way by, so therefore he is losing out relative to those that have got past Henrici and who he would like to be going after, but he still can't find a way through. He's been stuck there for at least a lap, gets a very good exit from the chicane. Now the move comes, he goes to the inside up towards the Lesmo curve. He should be able to go through on the inside. He's got the line, he's got the place as well. Daniel Zampieri then up to fourth spot, trying to fight back on the outside is Mark Henrici, but the Ferrari stays ahead as they come out of the corner. Ahead of them on the road, you've got Chris Ward's Nissan. That's going to be lapped by the Ferrari that bounces over the curb there. And Mark Henrici kind of spurred into action here, trying to come back at Zampieri. But I think once he's got into a rhythm now, having gained that place, Zampieri should pull away. Another place lost then for Pro Speed. After all of the good work by Goossens and Marson earlier on. Drivers now possibly just thinking about looking for wetter parts of the road just to make sure that these tyres will go another 12 minutes. There is 47, which was a car, remember, in and out of the pits very early in the race when it was in the hands of Lorenzo de Vega. Ricardo Bravo and Karim Auger have had turns behind the wheel, and still the car is troubled. It's coming back into the pit lane. Richard Westbrook then comes over the timing line, and he is in 11th place. Down towards the chicane, ahead of him on the road, look, is the race-leading Mark VDS BMW. In other words, Richards dropped back a lap. He had unlapped himself earlier, but he's now got a lap down once more as Maxime Martin continues to thunder on in the lead, 15 seconds clear. Behind, Laurens Vanthoor versus Anthony Kumpen. The gap is down to 2.2 seconds. 11.5 minutes to go. Fourth is Zampieri, fifth is Mark Henrici, and then Stefan Ortelli, after his stuck wheel earlier on, a rather distant sixth at the moment. Still seventh, and leading the Pro-Am Cup is 57, which is the car of Eugenio Amos, Giacomo Petrobelli and Alessandro Bonaccini. And in the Gentleman's Trophy, it is now in fact 73, a new leader in the class, because the Viper has dropped back behind Beniamino Cecchia. So Gaël Lesoudier dropping to second in the Gentleman's Trophy, a change to the lead of the class. Those two cars currently running in 37th and 38th places. You're looking, however, at the car that is third. It is, as we've now had confirmation, having seen Carl Wendlinger, his work done, Anthony Kumpen at the wheel, and he is still lapping quicker than the Audi ahead of him. So Kumpen now, who was 2.2 seconds back going onto this lap, losing out fractionally in the first sector. Laurens Vanthoor then still is second. We've got 10.5 minutes to go. There in 46 Porsche, Valentino Rossi. Sorry, say Porsche, Ferrari I mean, and the car is 25th, and after his great first stint, I think to be fair, Valentino here has been dealt a bad hand by his co-driver, getting involved in silly incidents, even though Alessio Sallucci has done more racing than Valentino has. But the number 46 Ferrari, run by Kessel Racing, comes down towards the first chicane, and the next target for him is 37, which is the DB Motorsport BMW in the hands now of Andrew Danilou, and the gap between the two of them coming down all the while. Valentino Rossi doing well here. Track conditions now rather better than at the start. There's rather less spray around, things are a little bit drier, or at least less wet, and maybe he's going to have a chance of gaining ground before the end. Whether he's going to be able to do any more Blancpain Endurance Series rounds remains to be seen. It all depends on his two-wheel commitments, but again, it's a rather trying time he's having this year with Ducati, winless last year, and perhaps if things don't improve and he enjoys himself in these sorts of cars, we could see a lot more of Valentino. Gets all crossed up, coming through the corner, trying to work his way past the back marking BMW there. Look, number 70, which is the target, the Phil Bastian's, Rogier Grauvel's, Niels Bauhaus car. Gets out of the way, and Valentino Rossi should be able to nip past him, which he does in a straight line. He's got one of the United Autosports cars ahead as well, the Patterson Brown Blundell McLaren. So we're into the last 9 minutes of round 1 of the Blancpain Endurance Series at Monza. We have a BMW leading by 15 seconds. We have Audi second and Mercedes third, and the gap between them is round about 2 seconds. It will take a 10th, depending on which sector you look at. Valentino Rossi, in the meantime, in the Kessel Racing Ferrari, 25th, lapping quicker than the 2 ahead of him. Down towards the parabolica he comes. Valentino, who before he went into motorbike racing was very quick in karts. He's dabbled in rallying before, but only ever one race, the Vallelunga 6 hours in a Ferrari, naturally. And now turning his attention, at least for this weekend, to the Blancpain Endurance Series. Every time you wander down the back of the garages, there's a huge crowd hovering around his pit box, ready for his autograph. Now, we've had a change ahead of him because Andrew Danilou has got ahead of Joe Twyman. So the next target for Rossi is Joe in the treacherous BMW that was just going into the chicane, not that far ahead. And in fact, Valentino Rossi's Ferrari lapping quicker than the treacherous BMW. So that might be a change for 24th overall before much longer. A slowing McLaren, Gregoire de Moustier losing out around the outside of him. There goes the DB Motorsport BMW, which is the Denboer Van Hooydonk Lemeray car. McLaren in question being the Duncan Tappy Gregoire de Moustier car, being run by ART Grand Prix, another new team to Blancpain this year. And that has fallen back into 19th place, Duncan Tappy having hauled it into contention. Had him well up the order, remember, in his stint. Now that car just having faded a little bit. 7 minutes to go here at Monza. And there, in number 3, is Maxime Martin, leading the way. Comes, of course, from a good racing family. His father, Jean-Michel Martin, who still races occasionally in historics, and indeed last year in the Spa 24 Hours, vastly successful race, a multiple winner of the Spa 24 Hours himself and of the Belgian Touring Car Series. And Maxime Martin, who came via one-make mini racing into Formula Renault, into the Eurocup Megane Trophy, a former French Clio champion, and a winner in GT3 and GT1, and in the Blancpain Endurance Series as well. And it looks like it's going to be another race win for Marc VDS Racing Team, a squad that in the last 18 months or so really has become one of the top teams in international sports car racing. Up towards the Variante Ascari he comes. Maxime Martin then with a lead of just under 15 seconds, with Laurens Vanthoor in second place, who is just edging away slightly once again from Anthony Kumpen. Marc VDS squad watching en famille here to see Maxime Martin continue to lead the way, and for a team that was pretty down in the mouth going into this race about the car not being quick enough, it's going to be a great result. '18th on the grid the car started, and so over the timing line comes Maxime Martin. Behind him Richard Westbrook, a long way behind. 66, the reigning champion, Greg Franchi. You can just make out the black and green of Vita 4-1. And last year's champion, doing this last stint, struggling as he comes down towards the chicane. There's Laurens Vanthoor, getting stuck in traffic, trying to work away past one of the team's 2011 cars, in fact, in the hands of Aaron Scott, who's now taken over from Peter Belshaw. Craig Wilkins having done the first stint in car number 30, and that is in 36th place, having had the extra pit stop when they needed to come back in and change tyres. So Vanthoor goes through, and 2.9 seconds he was at the start of this lap ahead of Anthony Kumpen. So in other words, he's getting away once more. And there, heading up towards the chicane, Mike Hezemans just trying to make sure that Vanthoor doesn't get past too easily and risk catching his teammate. Number 9 McLaren, which was in the wars at the start of the race, in trouble again. Mike Wainwright's had another spin, and this time it looks like he's out of the race for good. So Mike, who's one of the 2 gentleman racers that helps put this team together, run by Dave Price. That car retires, the other one long since retired with damage, if you remember from Royal Goethe's accident in the early part of the race. So 4 more minutes remain. How many more laps can we get out? Probably just 2 more from the leading car before the end of the 3 hours. The flag goes out the first time the leader crosses the line once the 3 hours are completed. There is Mike Hazelmans, a lap down, but running ahead of the second-placed car. Mike in 13th place overall. Vantour sets up the car for the Parabolica. There is the man that's chasing him, Anthony Kumpen. And on this lap, of course, the Audi losing time, being stuck behind the BMW. It was 2.9 seconds when they went onto the lap. And now, with 2 more laps to run, I would suggest, the gap is 1.6. That's less than it's been for many, many laps now. And still the Audi hemmed in behind the BMW. Kumpen here, possibly being helped by his old teammate, needs to get on with this and try and close on Laurens Vantour, who goes to the outside, heading down towards the chicane. And Mike Hazelmans, to be fair, is not really helping the situation here. He's experienced enough to know that when you're being lapped, you're meant to let the quicker car go by. He does now, the Audi having lost a real chunk of time on that previous lap. Is he going to be more cooperative for Anthony Kumpen? And can Kumpen keep up the pace here to go after Laurens Vantour before the end? 1.6 seconds between them. Maxime Martin well clear in the lead of the race now. Just over 2.5 minutes of the race remain. This lap and 1 more, given the lap times of the cars at the moment. The last lap for Maxime Martin at 2 minutes 5. A white flag ahead to warn them of a very, very slow car, and it's a Ferrari by the look of it limping on. Try and identify that in a moment when it goes past the camera. A sideways Kumpen, but the road has dried, thankfully, over the course of this last hour. The amount of standing water pretty much gone. The spray virtually is gone as well. And so it's a greasy track, a slippery track, yes, but nothing like as bad as the drivers had to contend with in the opening stint. Valentino Rossi has got himself past the treacherous BMW now, and that puts Valentino up into 24th place overall. 24th for El Dottore. Maxime Martin is about to come through to start the last lap of the opening round of this year's Blancpain Endurance Series. The slow Ferrari, incidentally, was number 51, and that means that it's the Giuseppe Ciro, Gaetano Ardagna, Dan Brown Ferrari limping round, and hopefully it can just make it to the checkered flag. Leader onto his last lap then. Maxime Martin for the Marc VDS Racing Team leads the way. He's got to be careful in traffic on this last lap, but Maxime Martin is experienced enough to know exactly what to do. He won't have to push too hard because he's got a good advantage in hand now over the second-placed Audi of Laurens Vantour. The BMW blasts its way out of the first chicane, and this, remember, is going to be 3 race wins in a row in the Blancpain Series for them, because at Magny-Cours and at Silverstone, the last 2 rounds of 2011, it was those 3 drivers, Martin, Linders and Paltela, that stood on the top of the podium, with the Marc VDS Racing BMW as the car, taking them to the wins, and they're going to win the first round of the 2012 championship as well. I've got to say, it's a surprise result, given the way the car struggled in the first stint and in qualifying, and faded in the middle stint. Some good pit stop work, troubles for others, and a great last stint being done by Maxime Martin propels the car up the order. A 3rd win in a row, effectively, and a perfect way to start this year's championship. The BMW, with half a lap to go, comes then now in traffic up behind the Santilot Racing Audi. Pierre Hershey at the wheel. Pierre Hershey, experienced driver. His son Jonathan we've seen racing in GT1 and GT3 and in the Blancpain Endurance Series as well. And his car will keep out of the way, will it? Yes, it will. Maxime Martin goes through. The treacherous BMW is ahead, and that's one of last year's Marc VDS Racing Team cars, don't forget. So Maxime Martin about to go past the car that took him to race wins last season, the new Z4 for the team, equally successful. Down towards the Parabolica, the treacherous BM, being run by Mark Lemmer's Barwell Motorsport team. But for Marc VDS Racing, a corner to go. That's all. Is Joe Twyman going to let him go? Yes, I think he will. Joe, who's very experienced and successful in historic racing, sees him coming. And there is that the Nissan that has slowed right down. The race leader comes then out of the Parabolica. He's not got past the treacherous car, but it matters not. It's going to be a win in the opening round of the Blancpain Endurance Series for the Marc VDS Racing team. For Bas Linders, Marcus Paltela and Maxime Martin. They came into the race with pretty low expectations. The car starting way, way back, 18th on the grid, but it's a winning car. And look at this for second. They're almost together at the end. The gap was 1.2 seconds. It was Chris Ward's Nissan slowing down. Laurens Vantour takes second. Anthony Kumpen comes across the line behind him. for third place. And fourth is going to be Daniel Zampieri. Fifth is where you find Mark Henrici. And Stefano Ortelli, I think, has also got a problem at the end. Now, it was his car that was limping, because Stefano Ortelli has slowed and has lost out to Eugenio Amos in 57. It's the Nissan, all right. It is Chris Ward limping on, but Stefano Ortelli dropping to 7th in the end. Remember, with the last round of pit stops looming, the way the car had been going looked like it was going to be a winner. In the end, it drops to 7th, and we've got a car in the gravel, number 40 in the gravel bed, which is the Gilbert Halliday Deme Audi, going no further. So Eugenio Amos, Giacomo Petrobelli and Alessandro Bonaccini, in whichever order, because that was another car with its transponder telling you fibs during the course of the race, are on target to win the Pro-Am class. A very, very good result for them, and an excellent result for Vita 4-1 Team Italy, this new satellite operation. Matteo Bobbi, the prime mover behind it, and it's going to be a class win in the Pro-Am category. But the Nissan limping towards the line. I'm just wondering whether it's even got there. Number 40 off on the very last lap, the Audi you've just seen in the gravel bed. So 57, Eugenio Amos comes up across the line then to score victory in the Pro-Am class, and in doing so will be ahead of Jean-Luc Bobelic, and third in the class is going to be the Richard Westbrook, Hans-Guido Riegel, Mike Sturzberg Porsche. Valentino Rossi, in the meantime, about to come across the timing line, the end of his first race in the Blancpain Endurance Series, and as he comes over the line, 18th overall is where he is in the end. Mark VDS Racing, they're already celebrating. Mark van der Straten is there, and there are lots of cars either not getting to the end or pulling off after the flag. One of the BMWs, 36, for DB Motorsport, has just done so. Jeffrey Van Hooydonk finishing 19th and parking just after the line. Now, Chris Ward's Nissan, 35, we saw limping into the Parabolica. Did it get to the flag? No, it didn't. It's not crossed the line, so within sight of the flag, that has expired. A fascinating race it was always going to be, wasn't it? Despite that long, long safety car period at the beginning. And number 3, Maxime Martin, brings the car home for the win. Gentleman Trophy is won by the multicoloured Ferrari you can see behind there. Beniamino Caccia doing the last stint in the car that he shares with Pablo Palladino and Paolo Andreazzi. Another of the Kessel Racing fleet of cars in this race, and it's one of the oldest as well, the Ferrari 430 Scuderia, but proving that in the right hands there is life in the old dog yet. It may not have the pace of a 458, but it's a class winner, and as one of the oldest cars in the race, just goes past one of the newest, parked a long time ago, one of the McLarens for United Autosports. So you've got there, 46, Valentino Rossi, finishing 18th overall. You're pretty chuffed about that. Not an easy race in those conditions. And the marshals applauding the efforts of everybody, particularly Valentino, for mastering the conditions. So Maxime Martin, Marcus Paltler and Bas Linders, the race winners from Laurens Vanthoor, in the Audi shared by Marco Bononomi and Edward Sandstrom. And then for third place, Carl Wendlinger, Anthony Kumpen and Koen Wouters. Fourth to Davide Rigon, Daniel Zampieri, and the man that started the car in the awful wet 3 hours ago, Stefano Gattuso. In 6th place, Eugenio Amos, Giacomo Petrobelli, and the man that did the middle stint, it now would appear, looking at transponders, which have been a bone of contention for teams, Alessandro Bonaccini, the former Carrera Cup Italy racer. And in the end, 7th was a car that looked an hour ago like it could be the winner, Stefano Ortelli's Audi, shared with Christopher's Haase and Mies. Maxime Martin clambers out of a winning BMW. 2 wins at the end of last year, and he starts 2012 in the same vein with Marcus Paltler and Bas Linders. Mark VDS Racing then scores victory here at Monza. Bas Linders delighted with that. There's Marcus Paltler, the Finn, who's done much of his racing in Belgium, in GT racing, in Belcar, in touring cars. The Finn, who is, as I say, not perhaps as quick as the other two, but does a good solid job, and a bit of a surprise all round, really, given the way the car suddenly shot up into contention in that final stint. Bas Linders and Sebastian Metz, the team managers of Mark VDS Racing, so Bas kind of player-manager role that he fulfills. There's Mike Hazemans, who has brought the other car home in 11th place. Well, let's hear from the winners. There's Maxime Martin in the pit lane with Haley.
Congratulations, Max. What a performance. You were obviously continuing the success you had at the end of last year and bringing it with you to 2012.
Yeah, it's perfect for us. It's a great start. And yeah, I hope it will continue. Here the weather's quite good for us, so it rains, so it's perfect. Thank you.
So there, a very, very happy Maxime Martin. Anthony Company's just wandered past as he goes to celebrate with the engineers. And Bas Lind, as we heard from during the course of the race, he and Marcus Paltler, perhaps as surprised as they are pleased. A car that qualified by their standards a long way down on the grid, but it comes home victorious. So next stop, Silverstone for the Blancpain Endurance Series, and that's a circuit that would suit the BMW, in fact, more than Monza, according to the team. So the opposition's probably a little bit fearful already. Audi second, the Belgian Audi Club Team WRT, Edward Sandstrom, Marco Bononomi and Laurens Vanthoor. It's not been a good day for McLaren's, has it? Let's go back, though, as we look at the Gulf Racing McLaren in trouble. Down to the pit lane once again and hear from second and third place teams. They're with Haley.
Laurens, congratulations. You're certainly having great successes. You had great time last week when you begun your career in the GT1 World Championship, and now you're making your mark on the Blancpain Endurance Series.
Yeah, it's a great result for the team. Yesterday I was very sorry for all of them because I crashed the car in Q2. So it was really, really bad. And I think this is a very good result. Second place after starting on P37. So it was a hard stint, but yeah, we did our best. We worked good and we P2, so I think we have to be very happy.
Anthony, congratulations. How were the conditions out there for you today?
Well, it was very tough, and we don't have any experience with the car in the rain, so we just drove in a dry setup. We felt it was going to be difficult, but in the end on the podium it's not bad for a start.
Thank you, Anthony.
So Anthony Kumpen does the last stint in the Mercedes for the KRK racing team. And as I was saying during the course of the race, that was one of a number of cars with transponders telling you the different drivers. Carl Wendlinger confirmed eventually as having done the first stint and watching the car come home third. Behind the Audi, behind the BMW, Paltler, Linders and Martin that wins round one of the Blancpain Endurance Series. Sandstrom, Vanthoor and Bononomi second, and then third, you've just seen Anthony Kumpen, joined by Koen Wouters and Carl Wendlinger. Fourth across the line, the Kessel Racing Ferrari that started on pole position. The car of Daniel Zampieri, Davide Rigon and Stefano Guttuso. And fifth, the car that led the first couple of hours effectively of the race, Mark Henrici, Xavier Marston and Mark Goossens, just falling away with Henrici behind the wheel at the end. To win Pro-Am, Amos, Petrovelli and Bonaccini sixth. Seventh overall, Hasse, Mies and Ortelli after the stuck wheel. Eighth and second in class, Bobelik, Guela and Bade. Ninth, third in Pro-Am, Richard Westbrook, Mike Stursberg and Hans-Guido Riegel. To round out the top 10, Paul van Splinteren, Maxime Soulet and Dylan Derdala, ahead of Bert Langin, Henri Moser and Mike Hazemans. And 12th for a similar car, but from Vita 4-1, reigning champion Greg Franchi, Frank Keckler and Jelmer Berman. So the reigning champion only 12th ahead of Henri Acide, Roland Beville and Anthony Beltoise. After a spin, Duncan Cameron 14th with Matt Griffin. 15th goes to Olivier Pla, Philippe Gache and Eric Clement. A car, remember, that ran well early on ahead of Gregoire de Moustier and Duncan Tappy in the best of the McLaren's home. 17th to Homerson Machiels and Andrea Bertolini, who never really sparkled in his stint. 18th, Valentino Rossi and Alessio Salucci, ahead of Jeroen den Boer, Stefan Lemre and Jeffrey Van Hooydonk. And 20th to the sister car of Simon Canap, Andrew Danilou and Jochen Haberts. Ecuria Cost 21st, Joe Twyman, Andrew Smith and Ollie Milroy, ahead of Mirko Venturi, Tommaso Maino and Andrea Invernizzi, a car that faded away at the end. 23rd, Greg Gilbert, David Alliday and Jerome Deme, ahead of Dan Brown, Gaetano Ardania and Giuseppe Ciro in their AF Corsa Ferrari. 2 laps down, 25th, Christian Kelders and Vincent Rademacher's Porsche. Behind them, David Touchemont, Eric Dermont and Antoine Leclerc in a car that kept drawing attention to itself by not being helpful in traffic. Dennis Retter's opening stint comes to naught, 27th with Raf Vanthoor and Marius Ritschkes. Xavier Pompidou 28th with Jean-Claude Lanier and Gabriel Avagel. Mike Savry's spin puts him 29th with Gabriel Balthazar and Jerome Policon. The Jones brothers 30th. The Draper brothers 31st with Stephen Jelly. Jack Gerber's spins drop him to 32nd with Marco Ciocci ahead of the surviving United Autosports McLaren. The struggling Nissan at the end ends up classified 34th ahead of the Benelux gentleman drivers 35th, Bastians Gravels and Bauhaus, and Aaron Scott, Peter Belshaw and Craig Wilkins in 36th. 37th, the car that wins the Gentleman Trophy, Andreassi, Palladino and Caccia, ahead of the Viper, second in class, Gaël Le Studier, Luc Paillard and Gilles Vanelay. Yannick Malagol, Jean-Marc Bachelier and Howard Blank, 39th, ahead of Miro Konopka, Stefano Crotti and Deno Mikulashko's Porsche. After that, Mark Soord, Kjær Urshi and Robert Hissem from the Gentleman Trophy. The Danes, Anderson and Jensen 42nd. Oliver Morley's spinning Mercedes 43rd in the end. Sean Edwards and his partners 44th in the Mercedes. And after that, you end up with the cars that had all sorts of problems and either struggled to the end or didn't get there at all. And of course, the first casualty that we had was 88, Jordan Grogor, going off into the tar barrier, even behind the safety car when the weather was at its worst. That was a whole host of cars there. Many McLarens, sad to say, that did very, very few laps, either because of mechanical issues or because of drivers having problems in the wet, not being able to stay on the road. But there's quite a lot of head-scratching, I think, from the McLaren teams going to Silverstone for round 2 of the Blancpain Endurance Series over the week of June 2nd and 3rd. Well, now at Monza, it's starting to brighten up just a little. But we've had 3 hours of racing and another fascinating race in the short history of this championship, with the drivers now making their way to the podium. But effectively 3 in a row, 2 at the end of last year, 1 to start 2012 for Marc VDS Racing, for Bas Leinders, for Marcus Paltela and Maxime Martin. The continuity in the team continues. Same driver combination, same car, a new model, but the same car they had as last year, a BMW Z4, which is now becoming the vogue choice, it seems, in GT racing, with more and more of them being seen, and the car's becoming increasingly competitive as well in GT3 trim. So the winning drivers will make their way shortly to the podium, and an awful lot of teams with tales to tell at the end of that. I still think, had it not been for that sticking wheel, the Stefan Ortelli Audi could have had something to say about the result. But Stefan, towards the end, was losing pace with his lap times anyway, so we will never know quite where he could have got the car to. And so the drivers making their way for the podium any moment, with the Pro Cup, the Pro-Am and the Gentleman Trophy class podiums to look for. So Carl Wendlinger, Anthony Kumpen and Koen Wouters taking 3rd overall and 3rd in the Pro Cup. There they are. Carl, then Koen, then Anthony. For 2nd place, Laurence Van Thor, along with Edward Sandstrom and the Italian Marco Bononomi, making their way onto the podium. And what they 37th on the grid. Edward Sandstrom's excellent efforts. Marco Bononomi starting, but getting kind of half a stint really, with the first half pretty much behind the safety car. But a win in Italy for a Belgian team. Marc VDS Racing, thanks to Marcus Paltela, Bas Leinders and Maxime Martin, head to the podium. And yet again, the top step. So the winning drivers then from the Pro Cup, and indeed the top 3 overall on the podium. And now the trophies to be handed out in reverse order. 3, 2 and then 1. And Anthony Kumpen, having charged on towards the end, doing his level best to get onto terms with the 2nd placed Audi. He lost a little bit on the last lap in traffic, to be fair to him, but it was a very good effort. Carl Wendlinger confusing everybody by the transponder glitch they had doing the first stint. And Koen Wouters doing the full hour in the middle and doing a good job, as you might expect, although he is not a career racing driver, a professional driver. He's done enough miles in GT cars to know what he's doing. And the musician and television presenter finishing in 3rd spot. 2nd to Laurence Van Thor, having had 2 wins at Nogara in the GT1 World Championship. Edward Sandstrom and Marco Bononomi with him. And for Marc VDS Racing, and there is Mark van der Straten, a victory yet again for the Belgian team. Marcus Paltela, Bas Leinders and Maxime Martin spray le patron with the champagne as they celebrate victory in the opening round of the 2012 Blancpain Endurance Series here. If Monza wasn't wet enough before, the podium's going to be even wetter still now as the champagne is sprayed. And as I say, the next stop is Silverstone. There are even more cars anticipated. Jaguar hoping to join in, the car not quite race ready. Aston Martin teams also waiting for the Aston Martin Vantage GT3 to be delivered to them, and hopefully therefore we can go even better than the 56 starters we had at Monza when the championship moves to Silverstone on June the 2nd and 3rd. After that, it's to Paul Ricard, then to the Spa 24 Hours, which if you've never been is a must-do event, then to the Nürburgring, and the 3rd weekend of October it's going to be Navarra, northern Spain, for the last round of the championship. Well, it was pre-race almost impossible to predict a winner, looking at qualifying times, hearing what the teams had to say. Come the end of the race, it's got a rather familiar look as the Mark VDS Racing team scores victory in the opening round this year as it won the last 2 races of 2011. And the drivers will now make their way to the press conference, with Maxime Martin having risen to the occasion, doing a tremendous job in that last stint to have a winning margin of 17.5 seconds in the end. And again, just to make the point about how remarkable it is, given the weather and given the number of cars and indeed spins that we saw, apart from the safety car because of the necessity to start with the bad weather behind the safety car not needed, not being deployed for any incidents during the race. Once the cars were released, there was nothing else after that that necessitated it, despite everybody's worst fears. Last year we got through without a safety car period at all, and were it not for that race start safety car situation, would have been the same. So we've had the top 3 in the Pro Cup. Pro-Am is going to be next, and that was another very competitive class, won by the Vita for One Team Italy squad, Eugenio Amos, Giacomo Petrobelli and Alessandro Bonaccini. And the Ferrari in that last stint coming good, ahead of the Sofrev Ferrari of Ludovic Badet, Patrice Goëllard and Jean-Luc Bobelic. There you can see the famous Monza banking in the background as the spectators, thankfully with the umbrellas down now, head for home. But the Ferraris taking a 1-2 in the Pro-Am Cup, and 3rd for Porsche, because Richard Westbrook, Hans-Guido Riegel and Mike Sturzberg finishing 3rd in Pro-Am. And there's the banking on which Formula 1 races were run in the 1960s, for example. And Valentino Rossi, first of all, makes his way onto the podium to be presented with the anniversary trophy of Monza in this its 90th year. And Monza rally winner, and now GT racer, 18th overall. And Valentino having had a big impact on getting lots of people here this weekend to watch the action, to see how he gets on in GT racing. Pretty good, I think, is the answer. And hopefully, commitments permitting, he'll be back for more before the end of the season. So the Pro-Am drivers then make their way next to the podium, with the car that started on the front of the grid taking 3rd in class in the end, the Bale Motorsport Ran Haribo Porsche for Mike Sturzberg, Richard Westbrook, another day, another Porsche, another podium, and then Hans-Guido Riegel. Next round of the Blancpain Endurance Series is Silverstone, from David Addison and Haley Cox, and from Monza, goodbye. The national anthem played for the Pro-Am Cup winners, Giacomo Petrobelli, Alessandro Bonaccini and Eugenio Amos then on the podium. And we saw the 3rd place team make their way out. The 2nd place team you can see on the other side of the podium, Jean-Luc Bobelic, Ludovic Badet and Patrice Goëllard. And Mike Sturzberg there. Hans-Guido Riegel appreciates his trophy. And there's Richard Westbrook, the star turn in that car, who helped to haul it up the order and bring it home for 9th in the end. Second place team receive their trophies. There is Ludovic Badet in the spectacles, Patrice Guélard and Jean-Luc Bobelic receiving their trophies as well. And the class winners, Alessandro Bonaccini, Eugenio Amos and Giacomo Petrobelli, who is becoming quite a force to be reckoned with in Pro-Am GT racing, having started off in Formula Palmer Audi many, many years ago, and then turning his attention to international GT racing. The Venetian, who lives in London, getting faster and faster every season. He drove for Scuderia Vittoria last year. For the Spa 24 Hours, was kind of loaned out to Vita 4-1 with Matteo Bobbi and others, and I think it was from that this embryonic idea became a team, and it starts with a class win. And so they have their trophies, they have the champagne, as the Pro-Am top 3 teams celebrate here at Monza. The Ferrari 1-2, Porsche 3rd, whereas BMW, Audi and Mercedes in the Pro Cup. So interesting to see the way that the different brands are represented across the podium places in the 2 classes. And it's different again in the Gentleman Trophy, because that is victory for an aging Ferrari, the 430, from a Viper, from an Audi. We'll get the drivers from the Gentleman Trophy up to the podium very soon. But Pro-Am looking just as competitive as the Pro Cup, with the championship, as I say, moving next to Silverstone, first weekend of June. And then Paul Ricard, a new venue for the Blancpain Endurance Series for this year, before the Spa 24 Hours follows. And then the Nürburgring, a new venue. Navarra ends the season, and of course that was on the Blancpain calendar last year and delivered a pretty good race, it's got to be said. So by the time we get to northern Spain on the 13th and 14th of October, the championship's going to be finally poised, and it's going to be the ideal setting to crown the 2012 champions. But there's a lot to happen before then, and the drivers from the Gentleman Trophy may not be running at the front, but still having competitive battles nonetheless, and the lead changing all the way through. And in the end, it's a class victory for, as I say, the Kessel Racing Ferrari of the Venezuelan Paolo Andreazzi, to the Argentine driver Pablo Palladino, and to the Swiss Beniamino Caccia. But onto the podium for 3rd place, and looking moderately confused, Marc Sourd, Pierre Hershey and Robert Hissam. There for 2nd place, the combination of Gilles Vandelet, Gaël de Soudier and Luc Paillard. And the winners make their way to the top of the podium. Paolo Andreazzi, Pablo Palladino and Beniamino Caccia. And the Ferrari 430 Scuderia may not be the quickest car anymore, but in the right hands, in the right class with the right team, it can still pull off the result, as 3 delighted drivers head to the top step of the podium at Monza. So for Kessel Racing, victory for the Ferrari 430 Scuderia, and the trophy is now to be presented to the top 3 teams. There's the 3rd placed crew, Robert Hissam, Pierre Hershey, Marc Sourd receiving their trophies. Marc Sourd, somebody else who's been racing in French touring cars and French GT races for a long, long time, and it's not his success that means that he's graded bronze, but his age. He is another of the rather more venerable people in the championship. The 2nd place squad, Luc Paillard, Gilles Vandelet and Gaël de Soudier receiving their trophies. Luc Paillard, somebody that began his racing in Caterhams in the UK, a London-based banker. But they're the winners, the Swiss, Argentine, Venezuelan combination of Caccia, Palladino and Andreazzi. Victors in the Gentleman Trophy in the opening round of the 2012 Blancpain Endurance Series. And the champagne is about to be sprayed. Are they going to behave like gentlemen or like hooligans? Like hooligans, yes, quite naturally. And the champagne liberally sprayed on the podium here at Monza. And the Kessel Racing crew, which has had a busy old time with cars across all the classes, celebrates a class victory in the Gentleman Trophy. So there, the winning drivers celebrating with the team down below, all cheering, all waving, and they too will make their way in a few moments to the press conference at the end of this opening round of the championship. And there'll be news and post-race analysis on the Blancpain Endurance Series website, and the next round will be at Silverstone. First weekend of June promises to be another fantastic race on another fantastic circuit that's included in the calendar. So another fantastic and interesting race provided within the Blancpain Endurance Series. It's a win for the Mutt VDS Racing team. So many hard luck stories, so much drama, so much great racing we've seen throughout the classes, and a 56-car entry for the first round of the championship. Next stop, Silverstone for now. From Hayley Coxon in the pit lane and from David Addison, it's Arrivederci from Monza.